How is everyone doing? Welcome to the Game Informer Show. I am your host, Andy McNamara. Today we have quite the show. We are once again recording it out of order so I can be as confused as possible as I try to describe it to you, which is always for the best. But we're going to start today talking about some games and kind of a story that Jeff worked on that I think is really important. So let's introduce this first group. We got Matt Miller.
Hello.
Jeff Cork.
Hey.
Ben Reeves.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing? And in the box we have Alex Stadnick. How you
Hello,
doing?
friends. I'm good. You'll notice there's no camera on me this week. It's because Leo had to take it to California.
So selfish.
I know.
Yeah,
It's the worst.
we have a big part of the team is out working on our next cover story, which I know is the joke that Game Informer likes to say cover story a lot. So I'm just going to lean in on that and continue with that. And that's also one of the subjects we have today, which is
look at that.
so like this. You know, I should have better segments that are more segmented and not as just kind of all over the map. But we're going all over the map here to start.
It's like a gumbo.
It's like a gumbo. Thank you. That's
that's right.
That's a great way to put it.
It's gonna taste great,
yeah, but yeah,
it's got a lot of different stuff in it.
No one's taking
does.
their camera out and taking a picture of this, though.
Definitely not.
No, they are not. So we're going to talk about Arise, a simple story with Matt. We're going to talk Darksiders Genesis with Ben, and we're going to talk about, and this is where we're going to start, with what we had just this week. December 3rd was the 25th anniversary of the launch of the PlayStation in Japan.
Correct.
So the beginning of the PlayStation. And I'm going to set this up a little bit. About 3 months ago, this is because this is my part that I played before Jeff, who did a lot of the part. You know, Sony
Jeff
called,
wrote a little news story about
a little
it.
news story about it. You know, Sony called and they were like, "Hey, what do you guys think about doing the story of PlayStation for the 25th anniversary that's coming up?" I was like, "That would be super cool." And then immediately, like, I lost all blood in my head and went, "This is impossible." Because
Where
I
did
mean,
that
like,
blood go?
I don't know on the floor. I was like, I don't know how we possibly do this. And Sony and the team there was like, I think we can do it. I'm like, but they were like, what do you think we need? I'm like, well, we got to talk to Ken Kutaragi. We got to talk to Andrew. I mean, there's just a long list of all the people
To do it well.
like, that we needed. And it was like, we need to hear the stories that make it interesting, that made it challenging, that made it be a story. It can't just be like, well, we decided to make a PlayStation. It was great. Thanks. PlayStation 2, right?
Yeah.
Like, we needed to understand the story and the challenges. And they were open to it. And I was like, very cool. And then I came to the group and I was like, we had this really cool opportunity. I don't know how we do it. And then the group was like, we can do it. We can do it. And in particular, Jeff goes, I'll do it. And I was like, are you sure? Because this is going to be extremely difficult, because an oral history is a lot of interviews, and then you need to put them in an order that makes sense and give them context. And it's a very challenging thing as a writer. So
It's like writing, but all in other people's words.
yes, and their sentences too. I mean, like and
Yes.
everything.
But then formulating it into a clear narrative is very
clear narrative.
challenging. Way to go, Jeff. You're
Yes.
Thank you.
you're a rock star.
And so this Tuesday, or was it Monday? No, it was Tuesday.
Yeah, it's Tuesday.
God, it's so lost on
Yeah.
time. This Tuesday, for the anniversary, December 3rd, we revealed our cover, which we did with Sam Spratt, which we're huge Sam Spratt fans here, and we got him to do the cover, which I was so excited for, and he was like, I'm super busy, I don't know if I can do it, and then he said he could do it. I was like, we are getting a perfect storm to get Sam to do that, and then we put the story online. So the cover story is free online right now, so you can go to GameInformer.com, check it out, please read it. It is a great, great story. Jeff did all the work to make this thing happen. So, Jeff, I wanted to talk to you today about this. I'm sorry, I know this had a big lead in. Trust me, everybody.
Yeah.
I know someone's going like, Andy, you talk too much as a host. I
There's
get it.
nothing that is brief about this story, though. Like
There is not.
up to and including the story itself. Like, it's 24 pages in the magazine.
Yeah.
And online, I think Margaret did a fantastic job
She
of
did.
transforming it online to where it doesn't look like you're reading like a game facts entry for Final Fantasy VII or something. I mean, it's visually interesting.
Yes.
And, like, there's a lot of good stuff in there. Yeah.
And it's got some interesting, which I want to kind of talk about a little bit too. We did get Ken, and it has, and I don't want to spoil any of it too. I want to try to avoid that. But there are some great stories from the team about, first of all, and you should tell us how does it start? Let's go with there, just like in general. Like, it starts with how Nintendo and Sony.
They had their partnership, obviously.
Yes.
Like, if you know the story, probably it's the collaboration with Sony and Nintendo to release a add-on for the Super Nintendo. There would be like a CD-ROM attachment.
And essentially,
did not work out. And yeah,
Short version.
people, it created some issues.
And I mean, essentially, it's the spawn point, literally,
Yeah.
for the PlayStation. It was, I mean, Sony was like,
yeah,
well, then we can do it ourselves.
right, because that project was going to be called the Nintendo PlayStation.
Yes.
So then Sony was like, well, this is called the Sony PlayStation.
And those
there-
prototypes are still out there.
There's one prototype, and
Yes.
I talked to
Ben Heck.
Ben Heck about it, and because he's got it working and everything, and he kind of there's a section of the story that you could read about where he's basically talking about even if that had come to fruition, it more than likely just because of the technology behind it would have been a failure.
Yeah.
And an
in a lot
add,
of
like,
ways.
and we try to do that a lot in that era. Add-ons never really worked out. I mean,
Right.
it ultimately, I agree, was for the best.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things, having looked at the story, is that it's so funny to hear them talk about PlayStation as a startup, right? As
Yeah.
a small little company is one of those things that they kind of talk about because it was. It
Yeah.
was just a division. And then it talks, and one of the things I thought one of the great things is it has Ken kind of going to Sony and saying, well, we should do this ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those moments that at the time was just sort of like, this happened, and this is how it resulted. But like, there's an alternate history where kind of the entire landscape of not just video game entertainment, but entertainment across the board, because PlayStation was such a big part of Sony over the last 25 years, that like the whole landscape would be different.
Way different.
Except for this thing happened.
And I mean, and that's one of the things that you get from reading the story is you start to understand, I think, some of the perspective and some of the change that it did and brought to all games and gets us to where we are today. Jeff, tell us some about working on a story like
Well,
this.
here's the deal. Like, first of all, and I'm telling this story to, as they say, show my a little bit. So this is not a flattering story for myself, but like I initially, like when it first set up, I talked to like the Sony coordinator, Sam, who I was working with,
Yeah.
and she was kind of a superstar, like helping me coordinate all the interviews, and had a conversation with her about what I need specifically. And I kept talking, it's 25th anniversary of PlayStation. I want to focus on history of PlayStation. And I had my first interview with, I believe it was with Evan Wells, and went really well. And then afterward, she was like, this, so we're clear, this is about all of PlayStation. And like, there was like a jumbled wires crossed. Like, I thought initially that we were just doing the history of the PlayStation 1, like the first PlayStation. And I saw that. And
by the way, that means that's what he signed up for, everybody.
Yeah.
That's the funny part, too.
yeah, and all the blood rushed out of my head. And I
blood leaving
contacted
people's
Andy in a
bodies.
panic, and I was just like, this is 25 years of history. Like, the scope has changed significantly, and unfortunately, like, the reality of the book and everything, we were like, we could devote as much space as we need, because
Yes.
I was initially thinking, like, there's no way you could do a story like this justice in 12 or 14 or 16 pages.
Yeah.
There's so much to go over, and I'm so, like, fortunately, everything worked out beautifully, and, like, it was fine. But
How many of your hairs did you rip out? Because it seems like I was talking to you during the process. It seemed like it was like 2 months of just insane stress trying to
Yeah.
coordinate all these interviews and
It was a
compile
lot of
this into 25 pages, and then like
Yeah.
you're like, all right, I'm done. I'm going on vacation. Which probably was a really good day for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a really great day. But like ultimately what happens is like with this kind of a story, you do all the interviews and you transcribe it all, and then you have this big, like I think when it was all said and done on the page, it was like close to 70 pages of just raw transcripts. And then that's the moment that the last drop of blood in my head fell to the floor, because I was like, I don't know what to do here. Because usually when you write a cover story, you've got like, I might have 10 or 15 pages of quotes that I want to incorporate in the narrative that I'm telling, but 60 plus pages, that's impossible to work around with a Word document. So I ended up, I sent this photo to Alex too, because it's...
And it should be on screen. You need to see this.
Yeah,
We
so-
need to have this.
So what I did is I printed off all the interviews, and then I took a highlighter, and everything that was like, that I was like, this is the best stuff. I used a highlighter on that, and then I cut it off into little pieces of on the paper, and then I just spread it out on the floor and was just shifting stuff around.
You
to,
made
like,
a crazy person map.
No, and
it
the thing
really
is,
did look like a crazy person map. Yeah.
I know I walked up and said, like, who's the psychopath doing this over here? Right? And I bet every single person in the office walked up and made that exact same joke. Because essentially you did look a little bit like you had lost your marble and were sitting in the corner rearranging pieces of paper to be like, I kidnapped your son.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like, essentially.
Yeah, I just
Like,
did it like yarn.
this is Jeff Cork's conspiracy theory about the PlayStation history.
Yeah.
You gotta believe me, this really happened.
Yeah. And it's a really fun and terrifying process too, because you want to tell a story. Like, my goal is to be in this as little as possible. You know,
Yes.
like set things up in such a way that conversations flow naturally, even though these people, by and large, weren't in the room at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So doing that, you kind of, like, your first few interviews, you're kind of flying blind, and you're like, I think this is going to be good. And then you, like, in this instance, talking to Andy House, he was a phenomenal resource, because he was an absolute joy to talk to, and he's like so funny and patient and articulate, and his memory is like sharp, and he was willing and was generous with his time to just give me the chronology, which I could kind of use then as a scaffolding to kind of put other things
That's awesome.
around. Yeah, it was phenomenal.
So did you, like, at the end of this process, did something emerge? Were there themes that emerged about this product, this 25 years with Sony? I mean, are there things about the way that they did business or how this stuff came together that emerged, or was it really just sort of haphazard all along?
It really did seem like, obviously, Ken Kutaragi is such a driving force of PlayStation, you know, and then just we're kind of entering a new era with his departure from the company in any, like, major role.
Yeah.
And they obviously seem to be doing fine with the PlayStation 4, but you could see, like, those early stories, everything, all roads led back to Ken in some way. Like, every story kind of talked about, like, this was his vision, this is what he saw coming in the future, he anticipated this, or, like, this part was really difficult because he wanted this and we couldn't deliver that. So I think it really had just this force of personality behind PlayStation.
The father of the PlayStation.
Yeah. That's not just like a fun thing.
No, it's not. No.
People say, yeah.
I saw he was at I saw pictures from him they were doing a 25th anniversary party in Tokyo, and Ken was there, and he looks great. Actually, it's kind of crazy, you know. And the PlayStation, I know, played a big part in everybody's lives that's played games. Even if you weren't an Xbox fan or whatever, I think you have to respect the game that Sony's put out there, because once you read the story, and I think this is something we don't want to give away too much, you'll see the impact it had, if just not like making the competition and everyone in games change the way we did games.
Yeah, without question.
You know what I mean? That we were like taking cartridges and putting them in a system, and that was gone.
Yeah.
And that happened because of PlayStation. That's just the first domino in the story.
And we used to talk about that a lot around these offices, about the way that competition has fueled the growth of the medium, right?
Yeah.
Like in some really profound and important ways. I don't think, you know, if you somehow looked out and saw, if it had been that history where it was really kind of just Nintendo was at the front of the pack for 30 years.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really anybody pressing against that in a meaningful way, games
makes a
wouldn't
difference.
be as good
Yeah.
as they are, period.
Yeah.
You know, Sony and its competition against the other entities that were also trying to put out games, whether that was at a certain point with Sega, but also Nintendo, also Microsoft, all of them benefited. The games benefited.
The players.
Yeah.
The players benefited. And one of the things I thought was great, and you know, I had a version in my head. Anything I bring to you guys, you know, you guys do the magic, by the way. I want to be very clear. But I'm like, this will be great. We're going to get the history, everything that's going to be great. One of the things that I was shocked by when you were like, I got an interview with the guy who made the sounds at the beginning of the PlayStation log. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think about how important and how ingrained those opening sequences were in my head.
Yeah.
Right? And then also, too, you got a chance to talk to the design team that worked on some of the hardware and the controller design.
Yeah.
Which, another thing I was like, didn't even cross my mind. And those are great sidebars in the history as well, and important moments.
Yeah.
That you gotta really. I'm not trying to just pitch you here. It is really an interesting story if you love games.
I will say too, like 24 pages is a lot, but there was a lot of stuff I wasn't able to get in there. And if you go to this is Big Thursday, right?
Yep.
So the PlayStation blog, I got to write a guest post about that, and there I've got an unabridged version of the interview with the sound designer, that I also have some like embedded GIFs so you can like watch the startups and hear the sounds and everything. But like, you kind of, it's the complete interview there that has a lot of stuff I wasn't able to incorporate in the cover
that's
story.
cool.
So
Yeah, it's super cool, and so thanks, Jeff. Really superstar job on that, and make sure you get all the kudos for that. And
Thank you.
It's quite the story. And it's funny when I was kind of telling people the cover's coming and like we're gonna do. Everyone's like, it's Half-Life. It's this, and I'm like, it's not a game. And I know there's gonna be people out there that are disappointed that we didn't put a game on the cover, but I couldn't be happier
yeah.
that we did something different. And that we really went behind this and went big with it and got it online and hopefully if you love the story, get the issue, because I think it's cool that with the cover, the design,
The cover's so good.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those like you could get your copy and then frame it.
Yeah,
it's a cool. Sam did an awesome job on this.
It's fun
cover.
to like look at all the characters too, and he does a cool job of like, oh, there's this character with the bow this way, and another character kind of like match them as a different character.
Yeah.
Like, fun to look at all the characters, and then there's like a cat on there. I was like, what is this? It was like, I even went into Andy's office. I was like, what is this cat? Like, I'm a pretty big gamer. I know some things about games. I recognize all these characters. And then there's a random cat, which I guess is like a mascot.
It's a mascot
Japan.
in Japan.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, and that's one of the great things about this process. It's, I mildly art direct with Sam. Like Sam, we kind of go, this is the general idea. These are characters I'm thinking of. This is what I'd like to do. Blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of other behind the scenes stuff that's boring that I won't go through. And then, but I know with Sam, that's the great part is like, which by the way, you should know, he's done like Logic covers. He's done work with like Red Dead.
Go
He's
look
like,
at this guy's portfolio if you haven't. He's doing some of the coolest work right now.
He's the real deal,
Yeah.
right? And he's worked with us on numerous covers over the years for a long time now, and always been always like in this particular, he's like, I'm super busy, but I really like working with you guys is fun. So he made the time to get it done. But I'm like, he goes, I'll try to get these 5 or 6 characters on there. We'll see. And I'm just like, he's totally going to do way more than that. And he totally did. He came in and he was like, I got Knack on there. I got Solid Snake, and I was just like all these things that he added as like nice little Easter eggs on the art. That I was just like, I knew it was going to happen, right? Once we had the kind of general framework of who we wanted to have on there as the main focus, I knew he's just so creative in that regard. So kudos to him and all the work he did there. So it's a PlayStation story. Check it out. Once again, congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you.
Fantastic work. So we had a couple games that we wanted to talk about, just to talk
in our
about
gumbo.
in our gumbo, because otherwise the whole podcast would just be Game of the Year talk and community emails, which I've been making far too long. So we need to get some game talk in there. So Miller, you've been playing Arise. A simple story.
A simple. It's a
Not a
simple
complicated story.
Not
It's very
complicated. This is a narrative game in the vein of something like Journey.
Okay.
Bree from last year.
So like an environmental story, is what you'd call it. Because those games don't have like a narrative. Like,
like narrative. I sometimes think about them as sort of allegorical.
Okay.
In nature, it definitely has that going on with it. But the focus is certainly on eliciting an emotional connection and sort of using the mechanics of games and interactive storytelling to say something compelling about the human experience.
Humans bad.
Well, in this case, I want to talk carefully around this game because I think I'll say right up front that I think this is an especially beautiful attempt at that kind of game.
Yes.
Like very, very emotionally resonant. The ways that it makes everything into a kind of allegory are really, really interesting, which I'll get into in a second. But I don't want to spoil the specifics of what
Gotcha.
it's of specifically what it is trying to say.
Gotcha.
But in general, at least to understand kind of how it starts, things open on a funeral pyre, where we see this kind of
uplifting,
a real uplifting sort of stuff at the beginning, where we see there's a what seems to be some sort of clan in a non-specific kind of tribal culture or something, and there's an older gentleman who's died, and he's on the pyre, and everybody is very solemn. And immediately it cuts away from that to that old guy in an open field in what is very clearly, very quickly becomes apparent as being a sort of space after death, where he's going back through important moments.
Is he visited by 3 ghosts?
Not exactly. No, not. This isn't a Christmas Carol specifically, but he is going through and having these individual levels that he goes to that are each representative of particular memories that he has in his life that circulate around what I think you could say are the things that are most important to an individual. Things about love, about family, about a relationship, the things that sort of shape a life.
The story sounds kind of simple to me.
It's pretty simple. It's focused on very, very core.
It's making you relive those experiences,
yes.
essentially.
Now, what it does mechanically to do that is that you go into these levels and everything is on. It's like you are in a particular moment. But within that moment, you sort of stretch it backwards and forwards with the mechanic, like a time rewind and fast forward thing.
Ah, interesting.
And so, for instance, in one level, you might be remembering a moonlit boat ride with your sweetheart, and
you rewind, and instead it's a squid eats her and it's over, right?
Yeah, I think you're really getting this game, Andy. And so you might jump onto a lily pad and rewind time so that the lily pad sort of floats upward to where you could jump to the next platform, right?
Okay.
Within the allegory, though, it's representing the idea of the way that moments like that really stretch out in our memory, right? That the color of a flower or the way that a particular person was leaning forward in a moment, or in a hard thing like the shape of a rock where you were separated from somebody that you loved, right? And it focuses on that specific moment, and you're sort of moving back and forth around that moment, but it really is just that one distinct memory.
Is it moving to you?
Like the memory?
No, I mean, like, are you finding a connection to it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
If anything, I mean, one of the things I want to bring up here is that, like, it is at points kind of heart-wrenching. It starts out and it's kind of like this is about falling in love and the happy things of, oh, this is so great, we're getting to have this nice little happy story.
It's like Up.
Yeah, but there's some of that going on. Again, I don't want to be specific, and it actually isn't exactly what you think it is.
Yeah, okay.
But it is dealing with some pretty profoundly upsetting thing.
All right.
There's certain moments in it that are about
it's been
grief.
affecting to you.
Yes. Now, the one thing that I want to say here is that I absolutely think it's worth a play. I think it's a really gorgeous game. I think the one big criticism I need to level at it, and that you should go into aware of, is that in the midst of all this kind of allegorical storytelling, it also tries at times to do kind of precision platforming, and that was a mistake.
It's missing the precision.
Yeah, it just like, if you can imagine, like, you're in to go back to my previous example, you're in this moment that's trying to explore the moment that you fell in love with the person you'd spend your life with, and the music is swelling, and like there's this beautiful scene on screen, and you jump from one flower to the next, and you fall into a pit, and the music stops, and you rewind to
to do it again,
and then you miss the jump again, and then at some point you're like, this isn't what this is good about this game. Right.
Well, I always fear with games like this that it's like, I love when you're really trying to like produce a moment for me as the player, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, use your kind of directorial skills as a game director to affect me as a player.
Yep.
But when it starts to just get stale sitting there,
Yeah.
right? You know what I mean? When you're like, I got it. It's flower. Like, let's
Yeah.
move on, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? Is it fun? Is it fun, or is it just an experience that you're enjoying?
I think it is fun. This is one of those games that's kind of like an art installation, like an interactive art
gotcha.
installation that you play for 5-6 hours.
They'd kick me out of the museum if I was in there.
Yeah.
So you have to go home.
I mean, it has a bunch of levels. I think there's somewhere in the vicinity of like 10 levels, and each of them are these sort of distinct moments and really surprising the way that they represent certain things. Like there's a way that the game does that's really creative to represent loneliness and depression, right? Like visually and interactively.
Yeah.
And to sort of say something about that. But in the mix of all of that, having these moments where you make a jump and you fall down, or you try to use your grapple hook and you can't quite reach the thing that you need to reach, or you like that kind of stuff doesn't work in this instance. To take a game that I think a lot of people play, in Journey, you imagine the end of Journey, the sort of apotheosis moment where you're sort of after crawling through the snow, you like lift off and the music swells and you fly away, but suddenly like if a lightning bolt hit you and you just died. Like there's times like that in this game, and it's a bummer because otherwise I think
it's trying to be an experience, but it interrupts that experience.
It
a
interrupts
lot.
its own experience at times.
Yeah.
That is not to say, however, that I don't think you should play it. I think it is really one of the most emotionally powerful games I've played in a long time.
What is it? What is it on? What platforms?
It's on all the stuff you want to play it on. It's on PlayStation, Xbox, PC. It's not I don't think it's on Switch.
When does it come out? Asking all the hard
think-
questions here.
Gosh, I think it might be out now.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's got a beautiful soundtrack by the guy who I want to say his name is David Garcia, who did Hellblade.
Oh, okay.
So he's kind of an award-winning composer. I think that I mention it because the music is especially striking and nice to listen to.
And you haven't finished it yet, but
I haven't
you're
finished
working
it,
through
so I don't have a score yet.
Yeah, but
I think it'll score well from me, but with those caveats that I think it would be stronger if they just kind of like glossed over. You know what? Like you jump from here to here. It's clear that you meant to jump from here to here. Let's just give it to you.
yeah.
I think the game would be stronger if it didn't try to be so gamey in those instances and instead embraced that yes, it has these interactive
That it's a journey.
moments. Yes, and that's a journey, and that should be enough. Like it doesn't need to be more than that.
Oh, fair enough. All right. Well, thank you. That's certainly interesting. I will check that out, though. Always starting with the funeral. Sometimes I don't want to be bummed out. That's always the one thing. Is like sometimes you're like, I'm not in the mood for the game that's going to bum me out.
There's definitively at least a couple things that will bum you out, but there will also be things in this game that are really sort of like celebrating the beauty of like life and love and the way that our ties to other people bring us back from the brink.
So it's Twitter.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect metaphor for what this game is. It's Twitter.
Yeah, okay. That's what it sounds like to me.
Sounds generous to Twitter.
That
little bit.
That was a little bit of the joke, I think. Thank you, though. Thank you for street comedying that up, Phil. It's good. It's good. How you doing, Ben?
Good. Just
been
hanging
playing-
out down here.
Yeah, you've been playing a game yourself,
I have, yeah. I reviewed something called Darksiders Genesis.
and it's up on the site now.
Uh-huh. Yeah. This is the spicy part of the gumbo. Let's say. It's I give it a 6.5. So it's not I feel like I'm a Darksiders fan. Like with that first game I thought was really cool. Combo of like Zelda stuff meets kind of God of War combat. And I even liked 3, which is a little bit more Dark Soulsian. I've had a lot of fun with those games. And this one they went for something. It's a spin-off game, but they also did something different where it's a top-down action game. And it's the first game to include co-op, which is something they've sort of teased for a long time. It's like, hey, maybe someday we'll do a game where you can play all the horsemen. You can't play them all here, but you can play as War and Strife, which Strife is...
He's the only one we haven't really seen much of yet.
He's the one we haven't seen yet. He
shows up in 3, but only briefly.
Right, he's got a cameo.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a jokester, isn't he?
He is a jokester.
He is a joke.
You could call them jokes, I guess. They're
Strife jokes.
I don't know how many times I laughed while playing the game, but that's kind of one of the things he in particular grated on me a little bit because he was so jokey. And like War is this, he was in the first game, so he's a very stoic individual, very serious character. And so I think they were trying to balance that out with a character that's more, cracking one-liners all the time and trying to go for that buddy cop vibe.
It's a choice.
But I think the writing isn't quite strong enough to pull that off, unfortunately.
I wonder what led them to think that was a dynamic they needed in that franchise. You have the 4
Horsemen
people
of the apocalypse. Yeah.
Which one's the jokester?
Yeah.
Maybe
because
just have
it
one of the
definitely hasn't
horses
been any
talk
of
or
the other
something.
three.
No.
So I
No.
guess they felt like, well, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Because it was, I did feel like I've only played it for a short period. I've not played the final build or anything like that. But I did notice it was trying to like really kind of encapsulate a lot of the things in Darksiders 1 and fit it into that kind of Diablo kind of exploration, combat, action game. Right?
Yeah, what it does well is sort of tie all the Darksiders elements into a top-down game, so the action feels surprisingly like a Darksiders game, in that you're knocking a lot of dudes around, you're spinning around, you're dashing around them. Strife has the ability to shoot. He has these pistols, so he can shoot and fire at people from the distance. And War doesn't have pistols, but he does have a couple of ranged attacks. He has a way to reach out and grab guys, or he has this spinning blade thing that he can throw out like a boomerang. So there's a lot of cool options in combat. And you can play it co-op, which I think is the most fun that you'll have. It's Diablo-like in the term that it's top-down, but there's not a lot of loot that
Gotcha.
you'll be collecting.
All right.
And it's all pre-generated environments, so it's not like random or anything. Which I actually appreciated
It's a prequel too, right? So a lot of it doesn't really advance the story. It just kind of fills in backstory. Is that
No,
right?
I mean, they've had this weird problem with their narrative for a long time, where the first game took place is War gets blamed for setting off the apocalypse too early, and then with Darksiders 2 kind of took place in the same time frame but with death, and then Darksiders 3 took place in the same time frame but with that other character. I can't remember her name.
I remember describing to somebody else one time that I always felt I like you. I also really like Darksiders, but it has always felt like each entry is kind of a side story to a main story we've never seen.
Right, they're never
we're not privy
progressing
to,
that
yeah.
story.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
weird.
like it's a very strange dynamic, and they've done great world building in a lot of regards, and certainly that's aided by some amazing visual design that they've created for their world. But yeah, I share your sentiment. There's something there. I mean, I haven't played this new one that you have, but like there's something weird about how they've approached storytelling over the life of the franchise that I feel like I couldn't really articulate. Well, what's the actual main beat here? Like, what's happening?
Right. Well, even after playing this game, I can't tell you. I mean, it's intended to be a side story, so I kind of get it in that sense. But fans who have been like eagerly awaiting, like, hey, what happened with War? Well, who really set off those bells and kicked off the apocalypse? Like, we've been sort of stalling and waiting for these answers for a long time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of silly.
Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate. I mean, I'm with you. I like Joe's art. I've always liked the style of this game, and I was a big fan of 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I'm always kind of waiting for it to like all come together and happen. And you're like, I don't know if I think this is the next step that it should be, but this could be cool. And then for it to not be, that's unfortunate. Or at least selectively cool.
Yeah. One other thing you brought up, Joe Mad, like he worked on 1 and 2, and like a bunch of other dudes who worked on Darksiders 1 and 2. They went off and formed their own company, Airship Syndicate, and they worked on. There was that comic franchise. I'm trying to remember. Battle Chasers. That's what it was. They worked on that game, and so this is the follow-up to that game. So it's cool that it's like people who worked on the first 2 games are also working on this. I just maybe they needed more time or something. It didn't quite come together. There's even just problems mechanically where like scenery will pop in front of your camera while you're making attacks or while you're
that's not
trying
good.
to do jumps, and you're like, well, this feels like it's obviously a problem.
Yeah.
They just didn't get around to having the time to fix it or whatever.
You're also saying something about loot, like just kind of like requiring it being a little bit of luck.
Yeah, there's it's not loot, but there's these creature cores that drop from enemies randomly, and these are the things you use to power yourself up. So you'll equip them in a sense. So you kind of slot them into this creature core. It's like a tree kind of, and so it's kind of a neat system in that you use these to power up your attacks and also your health, or you might equip them and like give yourself various buffs. Which I like that. What I didn't like is the fact that it's random, because the fact that these things just randomly drop from people is tied to how you power up. So there's no leveling system.
Gotcha.
So you have to like go and grind for more cores, because as the levels progress, they get harder. And in my experience, they got harder than my recommended level was. So the recommended level would be like 300 and my level would be like 250. It's like, well, I played all the levels. Like now I got to go and play these old levels again just to like grind for more cores so that I can power myself up more. So it was like that balance was way off.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
And so, well, but I mean, like, would you say what's the best part about it?
I mean, the best part is having fun with your friends. Right?
Yeah, really? Okay,
So
yeah.
playing co-op, I liked the action. The puzzles were kind of neat. There's not a ton of puzzles in the game, and they're not like super taxing. So if you hate puzzles, don't stress about that.
You
But
stand on a pressure pad.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that where you're throwing switches, or hey, you jump on that switch, and then I'll go jump on this switch.
Oh, boy.
Or you have different abilities. So like I mentioned, the glaive that War gets. So it's like, all right, I gotta throw this thing and hit these two switches, and then meanwhile, Strife will run over here and do this thing. So it's not super challenging, but I enjoyed those as kind of like switching up the action a little bit.
It had boss battles too, right?
It has boss battles, which are bigger characters with
Yeah.
more health. It's kind of kind of one of those.
Summarized it there.
Yeah.
That box.
They have weak spots.
No weak spots. It's kind of just a giant
Just-
health pool.
Just health.
Okay, all
Interesting.
right. Well, thank you all. I appreciate starting off with our gumbo talk here was indeed spicy. And so thank you all. Coming up next, we have we're going. I believe the order is community emails, game of the year talks with special guests, and then finally we have an interview with Alex Hutchinson from Typhoon Studios to talk about a journey to the Savage Land.
Savage Planet.
Savage Planet. God, thank you. Wow.
Yeah. Savage Land, that'd be like Marvel Dinosaur.
I know.
I'd go on that trip though.
Yeah.
But it does have that. It does go for that kind of pulp vibe.
Yeah.
And you actually got to play it some too, right?
It's true.
Yeah, you played it like after. Actually, I did the interview before you went and played it.
Yeah, spoiler, we may be previewing this game.
Yeah. What? Mm-hmm. It's
Yeah.
coming up in a future issue.
Exactly.
Indeed. So we will get to that and hear from Alex. He's a wonderful interview and always fun to hear his perspective as a game developer. So stay tuned. Hello, and welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I am your host, Andy McNamara. We are headed into the community email segment, and with me I have Matt Miller,
Hello?
Andrew Reiner,
Hello,
Joe Juba,
that's me.
and in the box we have Alex Stadnick. How you doing?
Good. How about you guys?
Good?
You
Excellent.
call it a box like a penalty box. Like
I know,
he's in trouble.
He's locked in there.
That's one of the things I like about calling it that.
And over in the cell, we have Alex Stadnick there.
But I mean, literally, if you
How
look at it
those
from my
manacles?
side, it
How
is
they
a,
feeling?
I'd like to point out, it is a box.
Yeah.
Do you notice it is a box? So there's like a head in a box.
I mean, it's a room.
Yeah.
We are also in a box.
No, I mean the
You could argue
window.
that the Earth is like a box, so we're...
Okay, fair enough. You win. Fair enough. I don't think we need to go down this path.
We win!
We out-logicked our boss.
Jeez. Jeez. Well, welcome to
start.
the show, everybody.
Yeah, good start.
So community emails. Last week I did a fair amount of like reiterating that I wanted more podcasts at GameInformer.com mail, and thank you all. You delivered. Actually, I was like, I got too many. I'm spending way too much time here going through emails. I did go through all your emails. It was a lot of fun, a lot of feedback, and giving you your own lists of weapons and things like that. One of the comments I did pull out because it made me laugh was that I saw you forgot one of the most important tools.
Oh, yeah?
Which was Saw Gerrera. Which
That's pretty funny.
that made me laugh. I thought that was funny. So that anybody doesn't know, he's one of the characters in Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's a person.
Yes, not
Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, exactly. It's so that made me giggle. So I just want to let you know I appreciate that you weren't even looking to get on the show. You were just
send
sending me
Andy some
comedy,
giggles.
and I'll take the happiness.
Yeah.
You can send me the happiness. I appreciate it. And then I had one quick question I wanted to go through quick, which is someone, because obviously they know I like to play a lot of MMOs and a lot of groups. They're like, Andy, how do you find clans, raid groups, things like that for Destiny and WoW? I want to be able to raid in D2, and the idea of gambling with an LFG forum and potentially ending up with a toxic team just doesn't seem worth the effort. Thanks, Ken and Jones. I think this is a good public service announcement.
Yeah.
About people and playing multiplayer games. Anytime you join a group, you are auditioning to meet good people to play with.
Right.
Is an attitude I take whenever I play. Yes, maybe there's that time when you want to be all like Beavis-y and get on and like cause trouble. But I'm going to tell you, you're making more enemies than you are friends. And I have met and made friends with so many people just through random being nice to people, creating relationships, and getting opportunities to play with other people. And then when you get that opportunity, play well. Pay attention. Don't go AFK every 3 seconds. Don't tell, if there's someone leading a raid, the worst thing about leading a raid is when someone starts to tell you how you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
See, I
Right.
don't play with you because you're toxic.
No, it's maybe why people. I think it's important. I think that behavior, right? I mean, you guys agree,
Yeah,
right?
no,
Yes,
totally.
100%.
I
That
think-
sounds like common sense stuff to me. Like
Well,
people,
you would
people
think
don't
so.
do this.
But people are, they don't. They immediately start screaming at you if you
or
screw
they're
up
like,
or something.
like play your own music in the background. Don't do that. Why are you doing that?
This is why I just stick to single player games. This sounds like
It's just etiquette, right? It's etiquette.
Just, there's some common sense things that you should think about in that equation. I think the other thing to point to people towards is that no pun intended here, but take your own destiny in your own hands here
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah.
I mean, you've got some real life friends, and you should talk with them and be like, hey, let's play this together. Even a couple people can be the foundation of a clan, right? Because you get a couple people, they're playing together, you're having a good time. A month or two later, one of them has another friend who's like, hey, this guy's thinking about getting in and playing with us. Great, bring him into the clan. And so you can relatively rapidly go from a group of 3 or 4 people who like to play together to 10 people, to 20 people, to 50 people.
Yeah.
Like that happens.
Yeah.
And
Don't be afraid to start your own thing either.
Yeah.
It takes some work, but
does.
at least you can kind of weed out, what Andy's saying, like the people that are problems and have a good community that you created yourself.
I think there's also something to be said for the idea of fostering. One of the things that most people like is a group dynamic that fosters communal aid, right? The old, why did civilization come together? Because we could help each other, right?
Yeah.
So if you have the opportunity to have a clan, make the focus be on you know what? Every time I log in, it isn't just about what I need to get done. It's hey, what I need to get done is I
You're
want to
such a
play
nice
with
guy.
I want to play with people.
I
mean,
just want
come
a good
on, right?
healer,
Yeah.
right? So I just want good stuff from me.
Yeah, well, that's going to be. I think that's often the challenge is that people orient their group play towards what's going to be most advantageous to you. But if you really step back from that, the thing that's going to be most advantageous for you is having a good time, right? It's not leveling up. It's not. It's like you're in a social game.
I definitely want to level up, but it's true. I mean,
but you're going to have more fun if you're doing it with people you like.
yeah, it is.
right?
You want to play with someone again when you had a good time
Yes.
with them.
Yes.
Or I put this as a very they're not annoying.
Yeah.
There's people I have fun with, but I'm like, this person is annoying. I don't want to play with them anymore, right?
That goes
And-
back
and
to your
and-
first point.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Be cool, right? Be cool and play well. No one when you don't do your job, I'm so done with you. You know what I mean?
Right.
But is it fair to say that if you have to err on one side, that it's better to be cool and not play at your best than be a great player who's also an ass?
A jerk.
Yeah. Oh, we did. We did. I actually found that to be a lot of fun when we would get an opportunity a lot. And Destiny had happened a lot. I thought Destiny had a great community that really focused on helping people. Mm-hmm. We used to bring in people that were like, man, this person would be bad.
Yeah.
But they're nice. We can get them through it. Do you know what I mean? We'll teach them how to do it, and that's a good deed. And I thought Destiny was one of the few games, even for all my time in EQ and WoW, I think people were a little bit more kind of, maybe it's because on PC, just a little bit different vibe. But for Destiny, there was a lot of nice people that we helped, and I got helped too. There were times when I had friends go, "You haven't played this in a while. You should see the new raid. Come with us."
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "I don't know what I'm doing." They're like, "Just shut up. Enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Shoot some
We'll
things
tell
when it
you
gets
what,
closer." Yeah.
stand there, Andy.
Yeah, and you're like, all right, I'll stand here.
Yeah,
So-
for a lot of people, they don't just go out looking for clans or stuff like that.
Sure.
They will just go into matchmaking. If you find someone in matchmaking that you're having a good time with, reach out to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's how you could start a relationship. You don't have to be like, I got to find a guild right away.
No.
It can start with just one connection.
Make a
right?
Discord. Share your
Yeah,
Discord.
seriously.
I had a lot of luck with that when I was playing Apex. I feel like anytime I'd win one, I could join up with the people that I just won with, and everyone was pretty positive for the most part.
Until you lost.
until I lost the next game, and then they kicked me out.
I mean, there's a fundamental truth that is that when you do this, you are going to run into people that you don't really want to play with.
Yeah.
And that's just part of the experience. But you will also find other like-minded people who are chill. They're trying to have a good time. They're not jerks. They're not going to use words in chat that you don't want to have to listen to. Like, they're just people who like to game.
Yeah.
They are out there, and you just got to kind of find them.
Yeah, exactly. They're out there. There's cool people out there. Thank you, Camden Jones. It's a good question. Appreciate it. And I'm going to run to this
Isn't
one.
that one of our former interns? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of names.
Camden.
Hi, Camden.
Hi.
If it is, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, it could be a
I feel like they
different
would have
Camden,
said.
but-
It did say, "Hey, Andy and gang."
Yeah.
No, wait, you know what? That's actually the first year. It says former intern Camden here.
There you go.
I could read
It's like
this.
an 80-point font.
I read this part, and I was like, I don't really like that part.
Yeah, because you're like, well, I guess it could be a different Camden Jones.
It could be. I
It's
could have.
possible.
This is the
But
amount of effort I put into this show.
specifically,
I
it
know.
is-
It
he calls it
literally is. It's so bad. It's right here.
Don't worry. I'm sure Alex will fix it in post. Make you look good.
No, you won't. No, you won't. It's all right. It happens.
We'll see how the rest of the show goes.
Maybe it was a test for you guys, and you passed.
We did.
Nice work.
Thank you.
All right. And see, now I was getting ahead of myself. Next question. So this one is about home gaming setups, which I thought was interesting. So, dear Andy, and other appropriate names. Hi, appropriate names.
Here we are.
That's me.
I've really enjoyed the show with you at the helm. Thanks. I appreciate people that lie to me. My question has to do with the panel's home gaming setups. I recently purchased Atmos speakers, and I am looking forward to trying Resident Evil 2 with them. What do you use for your games at home? Do you have surround sound and the latest in TV, monitor technology? I know all the extras are optional, but it's something I've been thinking about as of late. I'm curious what everyone is using in their setup. No wrong answers. Thank you for continuing to be the best game folks around. Cody from Des Moines, West Des Moines, Iowa.
Is he a former intern?
This is going to be a new joke. And by the way,
Pretty good one.
No,
It is a pretty good one.
Here's what's going to happen. There's going to be people who start writing you who aren't former interns.
It's going to be a test, and I'm going to totally fail it. I'm going to totally fail it. I will admit, unfortunately, there's been whole entire intern groups that I have not interacted with very well. Sometimes I'm a bad boss or a busy boss, I guess, to some degree.
It can be, it's a lot of people.
Yeah, I know.
No, not you.
Not you. Other people are nicer than me.
No.
Yeah. No. So, Cody, thank you for the question. Let's talk about home gaming setups.
I always
dogs
go
count?
with the best in visuals for console gaming, so 4K, like really nice TV.
I mean, you
Audio.
have always been obsessed.
Yeah,
I mean,
as
there
soon as it
was
comes out.
no 4K programming, and Reiner's like, guys, I gotta leave work early. I gotta go to Best Buy, and I gotta get the new TV. I was like, what is the rush? And Reiner's like, I gotta go, and then he's like, he would literally not even answer the question and be out the door and running to the store. And I was like, it'll go down like $1,000 in like a week. Right? You just like wait.
You are what we call an early adopter.
Also called a fool.
Okay, Reiner, truthfully, did you have a 3D capable TV?
Yes.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Seriously, any kind of tech with visuals. Audio, I used to have really nice surround sound, but now that I have a daughter, the last nearly decade of my life, it's speakers or headphones.
Like
now.
a really good set of headsets.
Yeah, so I still have surround sound, but I usually don't use it. It's mostly just through headphones for movies and games, and I love it.
Yeah, you got to be quiet.
Seriously, she's asleep, and it's like game time.
Yeah.
I tend to go sort of I'm a late adopter as a counterpoint to Reiner's, where it's like I bought a new TV a year or so ago, when you actually had to kind of look to get they were basically clearing out the TVs that weren't 4K, and I was like, I'd like one of those, please. It's capable of connecting to the internet, but I'm never going to connect it to the internet.
Yeah.
That
Smart
kind of
TVs,
stuff.
yeah.
So for me, it's a lot less about the actual tech of it and more about the space that I set up for it. So it's I have surround sound going on. It's I have a nice like comfy couch that sort of like L's in front of the TV, so I can sit in the corner with 2 dogs in my lap. And
there it is.
But the biggest change.
And your
for
dogs,
me,
I'm jealous because your dogs like to lay in your lap
they
on your
love it.
game, which I'm super jealous of.
Yeah.
actually.
Barnaby just barks at you because you're not throwing the ball.
That is correct.
I know how this works
That
for
is
you.
correct. You have a cockapoo, and so you are aware.
Yeah.
Yes.
My dogs will actively like paw at my legs until I set them out straight in front of me so they can. So one of them will go lay between both of my legs. I'll put a blanket over him, and then the other one will lay on top of that dog. And I'll put a blanket on top of him.
Dog gaming companions are really pretty awesome. My older dog, there's a certain time of the evening after like my wife and my daughter have gone to sleep. That my dog just knows, okay, well, we're going to go downstairs now.
Where is Matt Miller?
I'm going downstairs. I'm going to lay on the sofa. And, like, that's where she sleeps the first part of the night.
Yeah.
And she's just, like, hangs out there. And we have a little hangout time together.
That's nice.
I would say I'm probably, I don't know, maybe I'm somewhere in between there, between your two experiences. I will say that I struggle with technology, like paying for technology that I can't consciously tell the difference of. I think, like, for instance, 4K monitors and TVs that aren't of a certain size, I will be the first to fess up. I can't tell the difference. Like, until it gets really big, I can't tell the difference between a 1080p and a 4K.
I got this ladybug video you should watch.
The
blow your
field of
mind.
flowers.
I think once you get to a really big screen, I can tell the difference. But, like, until then, it's kind of on the border for me a little bit. And so I tend not to prioritize that as much. But I do like to have a really nice, like, I like good sound. You know, I have some degree of, like, audiophile in me that I want to, like, have the sound be really good. I like the visuals to be crisp and clear. And once it hits that threshold, I'm like, all right, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
For me, it's a little bit more, you know, one of the things that's maybe distinct about my setup is that, as anybody at this table knows about me, I am a collector.
No way.
I like the toys and the books and things like that. And one of the big reasons that I like that stuff is that I'm a person who spent a lot of his both his childhood and his adult life now engaged in fictional spaces, right? Like I spent a lot of my time reading books and comics and playing games and all that kind of stuff. I
wonder if you can tell the difference between lore and reality sometimes.
Maybe, right? And I enjoy that. And so I like my collections to reflect that time I've spent back to me in the same way that, like, pictures of my family do about my real life, right?
So you're saying your Transformers are pictures of your family?
Well, no, but they are pictures of, like, the things that I've engaged with, right? And they remind me of particular moments or feelings that I had, whether it was when I was a kid.
Kind of like achievements.
Yeah.
But in life.
And so I, like, look at them, and if, you know, I'm playing my game and I look over and I'm like, oh, that's the characters from the Lord of the Rings, and I love Lord of the Rings, and that makes me happy as I, like, look around.
So let's get to the point: is that he would rather spend money on figures than a fancy TV and in space.
And his basement is completely filled wall to wall with books and action, and not action figures, collectible figurines
and games,
dolls.
and board games,
and board games.
A lot of board games, But that, you know, I am a big proponent of you gotta follow your bliss a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think that's everybody makes choices, right? Like he said, there is no wrong answers, right?
This
like
is
you don't have to be there.
Joe's is kind of wrong though, right?
No, I mean, I'm actually not anti-technology. I mean, like, I have a nice big TV. I have nice surround sound. Like, I get nice stuff.
How's that 720p treating you?
It's 1080. It's 1080. No, it's not. It's not. No, but, like, also to Reiner's point, though, probably the biggest thing for me that's changed in the last couple years is I never had a nice wireless headset until recently.
Oh, nice.
And that has been a big game changer for me.
They're so nice.
Yeah.
So. There's for me. I have a kind of a semi-home theater that I can play big games on. I don't have 4K on that TV,
What?
It has like kind of some up-resing inside it. It looks great. I mean, the thing
You're
is,
far enough away from it.
It's also you have a really big TV.
I do, and the thing is, I
am
am more than willing to upgrade it if I really felt like the game quality was being hurt. But I don't feel like for my consoles, which is what I play there, I don't play PC on there, it's good enough. Right, I've never felt like I'm missing any kind of experience from that. So when I want to have a big like sit on the couch, loud experience, which I don't have any children to have to wear headsets for, I will turn it up, and I want to have that kind of crazy theater experience on console. I'll do that. But I play most of my games at my desk. I play most of my stuff at PC. I have it kind of set up with. I have like 3 monitors, one like where I can watch sports and play. Actually, I have a console hooked up to that too, so sometimes when I'm playing a PC game and I want to play a console game at the same time,
You're multitasking?
I multitask. So I have those 2 things. But my PC monitor is 4K. So I actually have the if there's a game,
you can tell you're right on it.
Yeah. So and so if I will play games in 4K, though I do want another monitor now. I want a higher refresh rate monitor.
That's the new hotness.
As kind of one of my 4th monitors, so that when I want to play something like a first-person shooter, I'd like to use that a little bit more. But I do like playing games in 4K on my PC. That's a nice experience. And the thing is, to your point, like I was like, sure, I'll get it. Why not, right? Get a 4K. And I was like, it's better, certainly, but it doesn't really bother me too much. And now when I come back and I play PC games, at least, not in 4K, I'm like,
I think you might feel it more when the new gen hits, right?
Yeah.
Like if they really do.
That would be
boost
one.
it.
That would
Yeah.
be that would be one where I probably need to change my TV. But for now, I'm with Joe. I think a good 1080p is solid. I don't think that's wrong in the current generation that we're in. Yeah. Because I know a lot of them do things in 4K. I don't even. Let's put it this way. I have a pretty great PC, and there's times when it chugs with 4K and max settings. Right. Like I think we're still fighting a bit in that realm around 4K, like really running great.
Running it really well, yeah.
And so I know that's why the sweet spot for PC monitors a lot of times is 1440, which is higher resolution, so you kind of get rid of some of the blurriness, but it's low enough that you're not dealing with some of those like kind of computer challenges when you get there, so you can do high.
If I go into a restaurant and they're running an SD signal through
an
HDTV,
so awful.
I leave.
Do you?
I won't even like sit in that room.
If you can't get
I'm sorry, we can't sit at the sports bar.
Either you give me a rock to break that thing, or I'm out.
I will admit,
I don't care how good your chicken wings are. I am
out of here. Yeah.
I've gone to watch some sporting events, like out in the out in the woods, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's only that one bar, like in town, like a small town, and I've been like, wow, that TV is so bad. And I won't storm out, but I appreciate that you will. I appreciate that you
I'll
will.
throw open the door as hard as I can.
Knock over the magazine rack as you go out.
Throw back my scarf and I'm out.
Oh, that's
I like the image of Reiner walking in, a waiter going, "Hi, how may I help you?" And they just go, "How dare you? How dare you, sir?" And then
And I'm
just
gone.
leaves.
That tracks. Yeah.
Alex, how about you?
So I was in college during the 4K kind of boom. So I didn't have any money for it, but I had a 1080 Vizio, I think. I actually got my 4K TV and Xbox One X on a fluke. Target randomly had like 15% off coupons that weren't meant to stack, but they stacked online.
Oh, you're going to be arrested by the Target police.
I could edit this
Target
out.
security's listening right now. They're coming for you, man. Make a run for it.
Wait, so did you pile them up to 100% discount?
I think the Vizio I was looking at was like 600 and the Xbox One X was 500. And I think I got them both for like 900. It was insane.
Wait, you made us do math right in the middle of that conversation. That was a little
It's like
unfair.
$100 off.
So like, yeah, I literally got
That's
kind
not
of
it.
paid for 2 things. Because I was
Is that even
prepared to
15%?
spend. I was like, I stacked like 4 or 5 coupons. Like it was crazy.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is these things would have cost $1,100, but
Yeah.
you only paid $900.
So no, that's not right.
Our new video guy doesn't do math well.
Normally I would have paid $1,200 for this.
Hey, you want to
but
buy
I
a car?
paid $1,500 for it.
I got a deal for you on a car.
I think
It was the greatest deal ever. Wait a second. I think I paid twice as much.
By the way, this is a great insight into Game Informer Journal.
Yeah.
We are all so bad at math.
that math
We are
did
so
not
bad at numbers. It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's definitely so. Welcome aboard, Alex.
Yeah, good. I'm glad I'm
truly
amongst
belong
company.
here at
Yeah.
Game Informer.
Yeah, I think it was like 500 or 600 for both of
You're
them.
still trying to like do this add this up. Like, okay,
I'm
wait a
gonna
second.
pull up
would
my
that have
credit
been-
card statement.
Hey, just consider us impressed.
Yeah.
I think
Wow, that's amazing.
That's a great story.
I don't know. I feel like every college student should have to play games the way I had to play games, which is on the tiny 13-inch CRT with a VCR built in.
didn't have to.
Joe,
You know, but you're
Joe,
forgetting-
You're doing the get off my lawn routine. You really are.
I don't really think that.
I'll tell you a
Okay,
quick
all right.
story.
Very
Joe-
good.
So Joe and I went to the same college, and at rare times, by the time we were juniors and seniors, we had enough people who worked at distinct like student jobs around the campus that we could basically break into lecture halls in the evenings and set up gaming on the giant like lecture hall monitors.
This is how I first.
We're breaking a lot of laws on this.
Yeah.
This is how I first experienced the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo.
I remember that night.
Was we have a friend who worked at the Science Center, so he like opened us
the
up into
lecture hall.
the big lecture hall. Miller worked at the what was it, the media services or something like that. So he brought in the cart with all the hookups to like make the giant screen work.
Yeah.
And we just projected.
You guys are like
Metal
the
Gear
Goonies.
Solid.
This is
Yeah, I
awesome.
know.
It was
And so
great.
we were playing games on like the 80-foot screen. It was amazing.
What
I was
was the
not
first
a-
game you did on that?
We played Metal Gear.
And Zone of the Enders.
And Zone of the Enders.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Yep.
Kojima it up.
And then we watched. At one time, we watched Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. That was one of the other things.
You guys are truly lovely nerds. You guys truly are. That is a great nerd story.
Unfortunately, I was not able to leverage my job at the theater box office. It didn't really do much for us.
Wow, you didn't bring much to the team. Weird.
No. Hey, I was able to give people good tickets to the plays, and give my
fantastic.
enemies bad tickets to the plays.
Oh, that's right. Well, I guess it's a dangerous game there, down there in Northfield.
the cutthroat world of college box office tickets.
that's
You're in
just-
row 18, person I don't like.
This is terrifying. So once again, we got a lot of great, and I'm actually trying to take a break. We got a lot of community emails giving us other things to build, right? When we were kind of doing the like 5 tools for our hardware store and the weapons, which I thoroughly enjoyed. But for your sake and for mine, we're going to skip that this week. I'm going to skip them. We'll get back to it.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoy those segments. But I'm like, am I just doing it because I like it? Do people like it? So
I mean, our tools
we were pretty
for the
great.
hardware store were pretty amazing.
They were pretty great.
Rock.
We didn't bring up Pokemon. The Pokemon ball would have been a good tool. You can catch animals with it.
I think
Another
Rock
one of
is
those.
better.
Yeah, Rock was
Rock
pretty great.
is much more flexible.
Rock was pretty great. So I'm trying to skip that this week. But that said, I still have some kind of in-depth conversation because here's the thing. It's crazy. Even if I only get 50 emails, I will find a trend in. I don't know how everyone has this like kind of the same trends come up, but there's a trend that happened. And this one was particularly was about if we had kind of where we think companies are going. One was like about stocks, like which ones are kind of going up and kind of down. But what we really liked was this one that was like, and I'm going to read this one because this is funnier this way. Andy and the GI crew, I have a situational question for you. You have been named the Lord of Gaming. You have unlimited resources to make your gaming dreams come true, and all industry personnel are at your command. What is your first order of business? Some questions to get you thinking. Do you give an unlimited budget to your favorite developer? Do you ban a franchise from making any more games, or do you ban a whole genre of games? Do you shut down a developer or an entire publisher? Do you ban certain trends in gaming, such as microtransactions, the use of booth babes, unlocking mini games, etc.? 5, do you order Valve to make Half-Life 3? What do you do? Thanks, Alan, Albuquerque, New Mexico. This is a fun question. By the way,
As soon as Joe heard about this,
I've been cooking up responses to
Yes,
this.
he has.
I have a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, Joe's been kind of doing the evil the thing for a while.
You had
waiting.
him at Lord of Gaming.
You are Lord of Gaming. What can I say? Power goes to my head.
Yes, it does. So, like I said, this is a thing I got kind of a lot of questions around. We'll go down for it. So, what if you could do anything you wanted? Essentially, it's a do whatever you want in gaming.
Yeah, I think for me, the first, because if we're saying what the absolute first thing is, I want to bring back cheat codes.
I like that, Joe. I actually like cheat codes too.
Or if not specifically cheat codes, the kind of customization over an experience that cheat codes provide. So, and that might be something like what PC gamers have with modding.
Yeah.
You know, like right now, for instance, I'm still playing Death Stranding. And there are so many things where it was like, oh, I just wish I could turn that thing off. Or I wish I could give myself unlimited of this. Or, you know, just like those, that's always that's what cheat codes are fun for me. Like people, you don't think back to like, let's say, for me, the ultimate cheat code game is like Grand Theft Auto 3, right? That's the one that people memorized all those codes for. And like, you don't memorize those codes because you want a rocket launcher for the mission that you're going to do. You memorize those codes because you want to play around in the city. You want to drive a tank. You want to have all these weapons and you want to just goof around with it.
Yeah.
And that kind of freedom in an experience is something that I've been really missing in a lot of games, because even though these days they are getting like updated and improved over a game's lifetime, they still never hit that level of just like letting me make the game what I want it to be.
Giving you more ownership on your experience.
Right. And sure,
Yeah.
I mean, if I have to beat the game first before you let me do it, so, you know, like I don't break the narrative experience or something, I'm fine with that. But let me do it.
Yeah, I will admit, a lot of times in the NES era, I loved like opening up the Game Genie book and I just look through and like go and find and be like, oh, this does this. That's cool.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that I wanted every single code or that I wanted unlimited. It would be like, that's a cool thing I want in this game.
Yeah.
How do I add that? And it just was changing the parameters in those much simpler times, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
But I thought that was great. I think that's a great point.
That's how I decided what games to rent when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
It was like I'd look through the Game Genie code and see what games had cool looking codes, and then I'd go rent that game.
I'm actually surprised. This is very like supportive and positive. I'm surprised.
You didn't murder anyone.
Like
I mean, he mentioned that. I mean, banning microtransactions is also a thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? First thing, you're Lord of Gaming.
I think as Lord of Gaming, I would want.
Does not fit you. It fits him. You're like a patriarch.
Well, no, you see, I'm thinking like, I think as Lord of Gaming, I would want to be the greatest arts patron ever, right? You know, like I want the
Right on the nose.
I want the great creators of this art form to have the unlimited budgets and manpower they need to bring their visions to life.
By the way, you know what that means? No game will ever come out.
It's exactly right.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think if they had enough like people helping, right, and enough of the things that they needed to make their visions come to life. The reality is, of course, this can't happen, right?
Yeah.
Everything is limited by business. Video games are hugely expensive. But I have been named Lord of Gaming.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
And so
it says unlimited budget.
And so I would find the people that I
Unlimited
really
resources,
I love the visions that they have, but they are often limited by like, oh man, this game would have been great, but you had to put, like, per your point, Joe, you had to put microtransactions in here. I know you don't want microtransactions in your game, but your publisher made you do it, right? Like, or, you know, I can tell that you want this upgrade system to work this way and to have this many options, but that would have taken a long time and a lot of manpower. So
would you have like a Game of Thrones kind of like throne room where they would come in and say, Lord of Gaming, can I have unlimited budget
I think that is the dictatorial part. At some point I'm the one making up my mind of saying like, okay, like
no, go away.
No,
like,
knowing Miller, what he wants is a reality show.
Oh God, no! I want like somebody like Alex Rogopoulos at Harmonix, right? I want him to be able to like, Alex, make whatever music game you want.
Yeah.
You have.
What if he doesn't want to make a music game?
Oh well, that would be interesting. But I would want to
Because he'd be like,
foster
I want my
vision.
money back.
So I want to like enable the Sistine Chapel of video
So
games.
you are prepared to pay for games that sell one copy to Matt Miller.
me,
Yeah.
to the Lord of Gaming.
All right, I gotcha. All right, that's fair. That's
a good idea.
Yeah, it is good. I mean, like that's.
I'd kill the arts. I'd go the other way. Like the last couple of years, the games I've liked the most, like Spider-Man, Jedi Fallen Order. I want the big licensed games to come back because I think they're awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to have Insomniac have 5 dev teams to work on Marvel. Respawn, make the Mandalorian next to your Jedi Fallen Order game. I want that to happen. I want the big licensed games like licensed movies,
So
right?
you'd say, like, take everyone, whatever games you're working on. I'm only going to make 10 games. They're going to be like
Well, if you're
Avengers
making a
games,
game for
Star
Miller,
Wars games.
Make a Star Wars game.
No, I'm asking. Like, would you have every single person
I
working
think
on like those 10 games? We got 10 games a year, but they were all like big. Is that what you're saying?
I'll allow it.
I'll allow it.
And Reiner makes himself, he has to be an unlockable character in all of that.
I mean, that's what's happening in movies, and I'm totally okay with
You're
it.
okay with that. So just like
The only movies I go see are like Star Wars and Marvel and DC.
So just the biggest, most ridiculous
Screw the
games.
arts. Yeah.
There are 17,000 people working on the new Spider-Man
Let's
game.
do
You
it.
take all those people who, in the last 10 years, have gone out and created little indie studios that they love, they're passionate about, and you're just be like, nope, close that up. Come on and work
Well,
on
I'd
this
be
Star
like,
Wars game.
this is really cool. You got some good ideas here, but you know what? We're going to make that Doctor Strange. This little cat that you made, I don't care about it. Let's
You know
make it
who
Doctor
cares?
Strange.
Or Celeste. Sorry, it's not Celeste anymore. It's Doctor Strange.
Exactly.
Or it's Nightcrawler. He can teleport.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
It'll sell millions of copies. That's my idea.
Yeah, I mean,
These are all great
I
ideas.
know they are. Yeah, they are great ideas. I think
Hold on.
hold on. That's crazy. But I mean, we would get very good games, very good versions of those games. And I would agree that there's times when I'm like, I loved that game. When's the next one coming out? And then you're like, it's going to be like 5 more years before I see that.
I agree with Reiner to the point that, like, I think some of the biggest franchises in gaming right now are mismanaged. Like, there's not a clear vision for what needs to happen with them, and the reality of like getting them out in a timely manner, right?
Yeah.
Like we've talked before about like the idea that the Star Wars sequel movies rolled out, and there were so few Star Wars games during the stretch of time that was happened was kind of criminal. But it was because, you know, there was a lot of mismanagement going on at that point.
Anthem, single-player Iron Man game. Would have been awesome. Those mechanics are sound.
You think so? Anthem would have been good if that had just been Iron Man.
Well, he's saying single player.
Single player.
He's saying stop. Don't get in the looter
I see what you're
shooter
saying.
game.
Yeah.
Just make. You have a great Iron Man engine here. Let's make an Iron Man game.
Let's do it!
I tend to go maybe a little bit more. Like I think to myself, I would just love to see, which would never happen, but just like weird crossover flip flops would be something I'd love to see. Just like, all right, Rockstar, you're making the next Skyrim, which I know sounds crazy, but those guys do worlds like no one else does worlds, and I just would love to see them like just a different take on that. And I know that it sounds crazy too to be like, what would Bethesda do with like GTA? You know what I mean? Just because their worlds, I can think of a lot of worlds that I really loved, or even be like, I would always wanted to get Metroid, like Nintendo to give Metroid to other people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the Axiom, Axiom Verge.
Tom Happ.
Yeah, Tom. Thank you. Like, give him Metroid and give him a bunch of money, and you know what I mean? And like a team, and like let's make a really really cool like Metroid. Or how about Rockstar? Here, you have Metroid. I have a theme here.
Yeah.
Give everybody Metroid.
And like let's make a
lot of
big
Metroids.
like open world like Metroid game, right? Would be, I still want the 2D ones, right? But I mean, I think it would be fun to explore
That's
some
a
of those
cool
different worlds.
idea.
So like, I like the idea of like just like giving people different things. Like Doom's been with id forever. Like, give it to Infinity Ward. You make the next Doom, right? I just think that would be fun to like kind of just take something away from
people
someone
play,
and let someone else do it and just see what they made.
You're blowing my mind with
Rockstar doing Skyrim.
I don't know.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah, it's like,
great.
wow, that dragon did a lot of cocaine. That thing's super powered up.
I mean, like, maybe they make a whole, like, crime world fantasy game, which would be
don't know.
cool, right?
Yeah.
At some point, though, I guess, like, how important is it to have the names of these franchises versus, like, Rockstar making the next Elder Scrolls is one thing, but like, why not just say, like, hey, you guys are? Doesn't that ultimately constrain them a little bit by making
by
them
saying they
stay
have to-
within
okay,
that?
sure.
Versus like, hey, Rockstar, you like make a big open world fantasy RPG.
Yeah, but you're forgetting something, that Andy is currently the Lord of Gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I'm sorry, sir.
I was just
Forgive
kinda-
me, my lord. Yes,
That was just kind of my like weird take, but you're right. I mean, I think that's, and by the way, I'm not trying to say that like these things are mismanaged, right? That Rockstar's not making great Grand Theft Auto games or that they're not making great Skyrim games. I just like the idea of like just a change up just to get a different
Yeah.
perspective on them. But you're right, you could do it that way. I just think that I put a more that maybe it's just my marketing mind doing that like
Yeah.
Rockstar is maybe an example. If they made a fantasy world, people would go crazy for it. But for a lot of the people, if they didn't have some kind of like IP associated, given Reiner's like he's only doing these Marvel
Only
Star Wars
licensed games, yeah,
you
yeah.
know that it need to have some kind of like thing attached to it.
Yeah.
that would be like you would instantly understand it. But I would love to see those worlds in new ways. I think is like kind of maybe the point there. But you're right. You could do like I would love to see Rockstar make a science fiction game. You know, those kind of things. I think there's a bunch of things you could do in that space that would be a lot of fun. And I don't know. I think that would be a cool way to mix it up. But
yeah.
I don't know.
I
That's my idea.
want to know what Alex would do
Yeah.
as Lord.
So my first act as Lord and Commander of video games.
It's a multi-act
I got
thing.
these 15% coupons.
I'm gonna pay more than I thought I would.
No math.
Is outlawed. My mind went two ways on this. First, it kind of went the Andy route of like, what studios would I like to make games? And I feel like we're missing the definitive Alien game. Like license-wise, I want a Colonial Marines to be that. Isolation was good. I just, I was looking for a little bit more Aliens over Alien.
Sure.
So like someone like Infinity Ward, especially with, I think they have some narrative directors from Naughty Dog that came over for the newest game. So
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. And this is a weird one, but I would love to see Playground make like a Star Wars pod racing game. Like just how
So you're in sync with me, man.
well,
let's do it.
I'd still leave some of the arts, just some of the arts.
Some of them.
The different lords of gaming are now forming alliances.
Yeah, this is not good for gaming.
This is all going to end up as a big
This is
war.
why lords are a bad idea.
Whatever.
By the way.
I made games better.
You
Yeah,
guys can
exactly.
invade all you want. I have God mode turned down over in
Your
cheat
cheat
mode
codes,
land.
Yeah. And then the second idea I had was
Call it an edict, please.
okay. My second edict was I would forbid any company from making a sequel to an IP for the next 10 years and say, you have a blank slate, go create.
That's an interesting idea right there.
You can go back tomorrow. You can go back to Zelda, but like let's see what you do in these next 10 years, and then we can come back to them.
10 years. Jeez, that's a long cycle.
With no Mario or Zelda.
Yeah.
It'd be tough.
That's
I-
what you
No,
Here's
need.
I
our new
think that's-
character, Barrio. It's a bee, Barrio. He's a bee. Barrio the bee. Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Yeah, they
That's his
would be
thing.
like, it's a Luigi game, it's a Wario game, it's they would go through the whole line. It's a Princess Peach. Like, it would be the...
But I'd love to see people not necessarily hamstrung, because these are some of the biggest icons in the world, but like, I'd love to see new IP.
I don't even think hamstrung is wrong in some cases. I think there's a lot of developers and publishers, for that matter, out there that feel bound to their previous success with a given genre, and obviously they want to keep making money, so it's not like it's all bad for them. But the way they see as an avenue to making that money is like, hey man, we got to make a sequel. I know that everybody's got some ideas of things we could do, but that's what we got to do, because this game was really big.
I don't want to
and-
blame that all on publishers, though. Just to point out,
Oh, it's not.
I think Reiner went through that very clearly. That like, if he likes something,
Yeah.
he wants more of it.
I don't
right?
blame it on publishers at all. I mean, I think it is blame's maybe the wrong word, but I think it's the community that asks for that stuff.
Yeah.
I think more than anything else, what drives sequelitis is a gaming community that wants that. They want the next Zelda. They want the next Call of Duty, and it's very hard for a a publisher or developer who are ultimately businesses
Yeah.
to not offer what their community is asking for.
And it's essentially leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, given that talk, I mean, I want both, right? I want the unlimited art that you're giving to indies, so we're getting cool indie stuff, and I want the blockbusters. I mean, that's how you get a good rounded out year, in my opinion. Is I want to do all those kind of things, and also too, I might make the world's biggest, greatest MMO that everyone has to play.
Oh,
They're
like
forced.
forced.
Yeah, like
playing.
forced play.
Andyland.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Ready Player One, you know.
Yeah.
And I am literally the lord of gaming in this cyberspace.
See,
like,
I don't
that
think
thing
you'd like
Snow Crash.
that because you'd just want to be a part of it. You'd want to be rating and stuff. But if you're Lord, it's just like you're making
you
sure
become a
everything's moving
victim
the
of
right
your
way.
own-
I think if it was virtual and I knew I wasn't really hurting anybody, I would go Joe Juba on the whole action. Is what
I strike you down.
I would be like, "Hey Andy, I have all these problems. Shut up." Ring, gone. And that would be a pretty fun game. That would be a pretty fun game, I think. But we maybe
We got some real desperate
that's-
in the
That's
making over
the
here.
question of the week right there. Nothing's going to top that.
We don't do that anymore, though. I did get another email. This is 2 weeks in a row. I got Andy, bring back question of the week. Like they were like,
People want
get
that.
action back, and I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Sorry,
not doing it.
we don't have the board anymore.
But Reiner did just. Pick
I
it.
just gave it to him.
Reiner just gave it away.
Yeah.
Dude, gave it away. All right.
Congrats.
So this is this is piggybacking on that a little bit. So if you could bring back a game franchise that was no longer has games being made, what would it be? Would it be the Chrono series, Portal, Eco, Bully, Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic? Thanks for all y'all do. I'll take my answer on air. One episode you should show what the bullpen is like at Game Informer, how it is an immaculate company, how this immaculate company works. Wow, we are a much bigger mess than you realize. And I'm so bad at my job. I don't think I cut off his name. I cut off the name, or I didn't put the emails in. So I don't know who sent that question, but thank you so much. Is it on my other? No, it's not. Okay, it's a disaster. It's always a disaster. But thank you for the question. So
Anonymous.
What franchise would you bring back? This is why we can't do email
You just
of the week,
mentioned
by the way.
Joe's. I'll even speak for Joe.
No, you can't. The ones that there are some that I'm actually okay not coming back.
Bully.
Like that's one of I would love to play a new Bully game, but I'm okay if there's not another Bully game.
All right, I'll review the new one when it comes out then.
But there are some out there that are.
And by the way, I'd like everyone to Reiner will remember this. By the way, I just want you to know he will
resurface
remember.
it.
Well,
he
yeah,
will
just bring up
remember
the
this,
telltale
and this will
sign.
come back up later. If there is ever if you're out there and you're making another Bully, you're gonna make Joe suffer.
Whatever. I'm reviews editor. I'll assign myself. But I think for me, there are some out there that are sort of like there's conspicuously just more to do with them. So like I've rung this bell on the podcast before, but like Valkyrie Profile, there is a third entry for that game that needs to happen that hasn't. That's one that I want to bring back at least for that third game, and Dragon's Dogma 2. I want real bad.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Those are great. And I like their kind of dark horse choices as well. Yeah. Not as obvious perhaps.
Because in general, I'm actually okay with the life cycle of a lot of franchises, and it's like, hey, it's time to just go.
You
dormant
feel that
for
way
a
about
while.
Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, as the BioWare fan that you are.
That's another one. I would love another KOTOR. I really would, but there's so much of that that's wrapped up in like a time and place for when those.
It's
games
no
came
Dragon's
out,
Dogma
and-
2.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Just wanted to get clarity on that.
Yeah, that's a weird. You do that a lot. The way Andy has this thing where he will like put two games
out a
side by
previous
side
example.
and make you choose between them. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
like, well, I guess, yeah.
I mean, I just want to make sure you're making the choice you're making.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I am.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Reiner?
I'll give you two. I'll go my licensed path and then the art. Yeah, that stuff. But Star Wars X-Wing, like, where the hell is that? I mean,
Yeah.
EA, you like money. Like, we know that. You really want to take all of it from us, but it's like, it's easy money. Like, an X-Wing simulator or TIE Fighter simulator, flying in an A-Wing. Like, I want that again. Like, where is that game?
I actually may have whispered in a developer's ear that has access to that. I was like, you made the models.
Yeah.
They're all there.
Do it.
If you made a free-to-play game that you put out that people could buy Y-wings. You know what I mean? Like even if you didn't, even if you couldn't
Like
get the
you start it with the stock X-wing.
Yeah. And like, and just if you wanted to do like customization to get, I'm just trying to find a way that like, because obviously no one's going to be like, I want to give you $10 million to go make that, right? So
because there's no Lord of Gaming.
Because there's no Lord of Gaming.
Yes.
But like, I think it's a great point, right? Like if you have a ton of models out there, there's a ton of 3D work they do for the films, a ton of textures that are like ready to go. And I know I'm simplifying things. Anyone in game dev is going like rolling their eyes at me a little bit, but I'm like, you have a start. Right, and if you got a good like flight model together, which they had in some areas and in different games, and you built something that at least was a start, and let the community be a part of building it up and being like, oh hey, I want more of this or I want more of that. That would be a fun early access build game that I think would build a community, particularly because we have people that love flight games. I'm not necessarily one, but there are a ton of people that do.
Yeah,
but
that's the seat of your pants version.
Yeah, I know you're just like spending all the money. Yeah,
you're thinking about the logistics behind it, which I think is smart.
Yeah.
But yeah, either vision, it does feel like it's money on the table, being left on the table.
Seriously.
Like, why would we not have an extra?
Yeah, that's a great choice.
And then Legend of Dragoon, kind of a JRPG style turn-based fighter. The unique mechanic was timing. So it'd be like you're doing combos against enemies in turn-based battles, but you'd have to hit with perfect precision every sword strike, otherwise the combo would end, and you'd only deal a certain amount of damage. I thought that was a brilliant system back in the day. They were just scratching the surface on it. I would love to see what they do in a new gen sequel.
God, you guys are blowing my mind. You guys are going deep cut, and I love it. Are you going to bring up Ark the Lad as your choice?
Maybe equally like out of left field, I would say. But another case of EA, what the heck are you doing? Because I'm pretty sure they're the ones who still have this license. Ultima,
yeah.
Ultima is the idea that there has not been an open world single player Ultima game or an MMO.
Yeah.
Either one, quite frankly.
Wait, did they ever make an MMO with Ultima?
I mean, I think personally, like, whereas your affection is for Ultima Online, mine's more like Ultima 4 kind of like single player. But either which way, I mean, they did a not great mobile game a couple years ago.
That was not a way to bring back a franchise.
And like they have the rights to this thing that in many ways defined the beginnings of open world RPG design.
Yeah, but them and wizardry and like I mean like they were all cutting edge back in the day. Yeah.
And the idea that they have access to that but they're not taking advantage of it seems very strange to me. And I think there's some
That's because Reiner's the Lord of Gaming. He's like, you're all making Star Wars.
That might be the problem. I don't know. It feels like that there is a unique identity there that they could tap into. There was something that was especially compelling about that world's focus on kind of ethics.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. The idea of like there are these different virtues that you're chasing, and so everything was wrapped in this moral framework. On top of, you got dragons and you got monsters and you got open world exploration and all that kind of stuff. But then you also had these places that were devoted to like, okay, this is about honor or honesty, and like that's an interesting sort of hook that you can play with that a lot of other games don't have. And you should do something with that.
Yeah, I think that's wow. You guys, I'm seriously bravo. I'm enjoying loving the choice. Do you have another one? Do you have two? Just have to.
That's probably the big one. I would say one of the other ones that I think I would love to see another. I'll tell you, it wouldn't have to be this game specifically, but I thought I'm one of the rare people who really thinks Jade Empire was a super neat idea.
Yeah, you brought that up before.
Yeah, I like that. I liked the exploration of a sort of mythological version of a culture that often isn't taken into the fantasy genre.
Yeah.
As powerfully as it could be. I'd love to see BioWare take another shot at either that or going someplace else that is outside. I mean, Dragon Age. I love Dragon Age, but like this is pretty classic kind of Western fantasy stuff. And I think there's a lot of other places you can go with fantasy storytelling by looking for inspiration to some of the other really compelling mythologies and cultural backgrounds that the world has to offer.
For sure.
And Jade Empire tapped into that, but obviously it wasn't BioWare's biggest game ever.
And also, I would go again. I would go a little ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Right. I think just like kind of exploring those worlds when people were still learning maybe the basics at that point. That I think would be more interesting. Yeah, that's a good choice as well. I like that. I like that. You guys do good now. I don't want to answer now, because I'd just be like, I'm excited about Half-Life, Alex, but I'm Twitter. I want Half-Life
3.
I want Half-Life 3, and by the way, I'm a big fan of Dishonored. I'm a big fan of Prey. One of the reasons I love Control is I just love those games that I feel are like they all owe their existence to kind of that Half-Life first-person adventure vibe. I love those games. I love those types of games. I would make so many of those games. You know what I mean? So that's definitely a thing for me.
I'll tell you an interesting story about Dishonored specifically. I remember I was on the cover story we did for that game. I was one of the people who went on that, and the degree to which, before they ever put out the first Dishonored, the degree to which they fleshed out that world in really interesting ways is awesome. And I like there was a whole other aspect of that story that I don't think they've ever really begun to touch on that I would love to see them return to.
You're making me be all sad.
I know.
I want that.
Look at Miller's so smart and knows game stuff no one else knows.
Yeah. All right, Alex.
It's interesting that because you bring up Half-Life, and for me, that's not the first game I think of when I want Valve to make a game again. That for me is Left 4 Dead. I love that. Zombies are obviously a little played out right now, but I have so many good memories with that game, and I think it's been like 10 years since Left 4 Dead 2, something like that.
Do you have good memories of Left 4 Dead or Left 4 Dead 2?
Both, but Left 4 Dead 2 is where we spent a lot of time on.
They're both good.
And then
Has it really been a decade?
No.
it's been long. We're getting it. If not a decade, we're getting close to it.
Time goes fast.
We're
It takes a
getting
long
old,
time to make
Miller.
games.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then I've DK64. I feel like Donkey Kong's just kind of sitting there, along with Metroid in their Nintendo stockpile. I would like to see. I feel like the Switch would be a perfect place to bring back something like that. And then my last one is a deep cut, and I loved it. No one else did, but Dante's Inferno from Visceral. I love that game.
Wow, that is a deep cut.
And they set it up at the end for a sequel in heaven. So I don't know. I love the visuals of that.
And
I mean, there's some
Alex's
dark
studio
stuff, but
is closed.
I mean, hey, you know what? This is living a dream. I'm okay
He
with
wants to
that.
be in heaven with Dante.
I'm still Lord of Gaming, right?
Yeah, that is definitely the theme is Lord of Gaming at this point, because we're making decisions that we have no business making.
Yeah.
I actually remember that ending. It was with the snake,
Yep.
right?
Yeah,
And
because
yeah.
you beat Satan, and then spoilers for Dante's Inferno. Sorry, everyone.
How dare you, sir?
But you get up to heaven
Yeah.
and he like sneaks away, and I was like, all right, I'm with it. So, but that's my take.
I would like to point out the examples from the person that put in the email of Bully, Star Wars, Portal, Chrono Series, Eco.
Those are all good.
Yeah, I mean, we would
like those games
we
too.
would like those games too. Just because I know we veered off from that. Those are all great. And that's a question I could spend a lot of time thinking about, right? Because we're missing something here, and there's someone listening right now saying out loud, like screaming, like idiots. You're not thinking of, and there's definitely one.
This
of those.
guy went with Dante's Inferno.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for me, I guess I approach it more from a sense of like, my picks, I think, are partially because those games are unlikely to come back versus like, I think we will see another Bully at some point. I think we will see another KOTOR at some point. Like,
Oh, for sure.
like it's just a question of when for things like that. But like for something like Valkyrie Profile, which is like an old PS1, and then the sequel on PS2, like RPG from Tri-Ace, like that, they're just not making games right now. Of that scale, and
Also, Bloodborne 2, which I hope is being made.
I hope that's
It's
made.
gotta be being
I
made.
mean, From is making like 6 games at once at this point. It seems like so.
It does,
But they should do that instead.
I would really like
Whatever
Bloodborne 2.
else
Yeah.
they're doing.
Or they can make that a Wolverine game.
Now, you know what? By the way,
for that is Wolverine.
End scene. I don't know. I just went somewhere just to piss you guys off.
I know Miyazaki wouldn't do it, but that would be kind of cool. A Miyazaki like Wolverine game. It would be cool.
Yeah.
It would be cool. I give you credit on that one, Reiner. Give
Thanks,
you credit.
okay.
All right. So in this, we're still ruling the world theme. I've been very frustrated, or hi, GI Crew. I've been very frustrated with Xbox exclusive games this generation. While I'm a huge Halo and Gears fan, I feel that the games in the shooter genre have become stale to the audience that can no longer sell consoles the way action-adventure games like Spider-Man, Last of Us, God of War are currently doing for Sony. And I want to point out, before I get here, he put a PS in here that says, I understand Call of Duty is the biggest selling game of the year. I don't believe it drives console sales on any specific platform because it's everywhere.
We're talking specifically about the shooters on Xbox.
Yes, and we're talking specifically about first-party support. And I want to just go out here, like, one of the jobs of first party, in my opinion, and I think the writer here, Pharaoh Steve, would agree with me. That like one of their jobs is to take chances and make things that third party wouldn't make, right? You know what I mean? Like that's their job, is to expand what the offerings are of a platform.
Showpiece things that make the console look real sexy.
Correct. Yeah, that go above and beyond. And I think that's definitely one of the challenges. And I want to also point out too, like, we know Phil has been slowly rebuilding Xbox's first party program. They brought on a lot of people, and we've talked about it on the show. We're getting on Obsidian, Double Fine,
Ninja Theory.
And Ninja Theory. I mean, they've been bringing on a lot of people.
That's all good.
Yeah, State of Decay guys.
But we haven't seen the fruit
We
of
haven't
that
seen the
yet.
fruit of that labor yet. So we're critiquing something that's in progress, to be fair.
Well,
but
there's a lot to critique for this gen from the beginning of Xbox One to where we are right now.
100%. And Reiner is, by the way, I would like to point out, Reiner is, he plays like almost all his games on Xbox. He is a huge Xbox fan. Before anybody throws some kind of bias at us, I want everyone to be
clear. I
clear.
played God of War on there.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah, well, no, he put his HDMI cord from the PS4
seriously.
and the Xbox.
So I just want everyone to be clear. It's just, we're just trying to be like realistic about what's going on. So I feel the games of shooter genre have become stale to audiences that no longer sell consoles the way the action games did on Spider-Man, The Last of Us, God of War, as I said before. My challenge for the GI Crew is to collaboratively or individually take an Xbox franchise, past or present, and take it in a bold new direction that compete with Sony's exclusives. I've outlined some quick rules below. I do want to point out, they don't have to compete with Sony's exclusives. They need to compete with making great games.
Yep.
And that's my one little edit here. Like, you just need to make great games that showcase the platform. It doesn't... I always been like, oh, it's Sony versus Xbox, blah, blah, blah. I just want great games from both because I want to play them both. Like, I've never been a part of the console war. I'll go where the great games are, period.
Yeah.
Not that I'm editing the stuff out of this guy's email, I guess, on the fly. Can give your new entry to the franchise a new title, or give your new entry in the franchise a title. New entry can be a reboot or a sequel to a current or interactive franchise. New entry must have new narrative or gameplay direction. New entry can be developed by any studio. That's where we go into the Lord thing, which we can continue to do. I don't think it's important. It's just like, let's talk about what we would do with that stuff.
We do like being lords of gaming.
We do, and it's going to go down that path eventually. But I'm saying that's not required. I'm not going to follow all the rules here. Would love to hear you guys discuss the DNA of a franchise in question and how you would try to retain that. I think that's important, and that's going to come up in the conversation anyway. So, all that. Who wants to start? Who wants to go first?
Ooh.
Ooh. I love it. There was enthusiasm.
Miller said, ooh, Reiner just raised his hand.
Yeah, all right. We have a winner. Matt Miller.
Fable.
Oh, good choice. You guys are on fire today.
Yeah.
Fable. It's got to
That's
be Fable.
low.
So what's the
Hanging
best?
fruit.
It is low-hanging fruit. I give you that.
Well, okay, so what's the best Fable before you answer?
Gosh, two probably.
Two? Everyone agrees on two? Joe's shaking his head a little bit.
No. 2 is absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
I think there's a number of ways that you could do this and have it be good, but I think part of it's probably finding a way to do it as to really blow out the world in a compelling way, like make it a big space. It doesn't necessarily have to be open world per se.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of what would be compelling about new Fable at this point would be a sense of scale and scope that had heretofore not been seen from that franchise.
Yeah.
A lot of those earlier games were amazing, but often felt kind of constrained, right? Like they were somewhat limited in their
to some degree, I'm gonna
places you went to.
You would give them the budget to do all those things, but what are the core DNA elements? Like, what are the loops that would stay and the loops that you would change, or how you would change the way that it approaches those things?
I think one of the fundamental things about the DNA that can't be lost is its whimsical nature.
Yeah.
Both in visual presentation and storytelling.
And audio. Soundtrack and stuff.
Absolutely.
It has to have that boop, 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 boop. With the real bright, sunny visuals.
Yes.
Yeah.
It needs to have that quality maintained as it moves into a new generation of presentation. But
Who develops it now?
I would open up to the board here. I think a little bit. I think there's a
CD
lot
Projekt.
of people who could do really cool. Yeah, CD Projekt would be damn cool.
That is a stretch since they're making their own giant franchises. But I mean, they would be great to do it. Yeah, that would be awesome.
I mean, I wonder. It'd be interesting to see that team try to do something that didn't have that gritty tone to it.
Yeah.
Right. I suspect they would do remarkable at it. But the only thing we have to base it on is what we've seen of, at least recently, the Witcher stuff and Cyberpunk, neither of which is anything close to a Fable style.
I'm thinking of the skin though, and not the like you could or under the skin. I think if you take imagine just The Witcher, but instead of looking like The Witcher 3, it looks like Fable, and then you make tweaks from there.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
See, I think you need a studio that's like cutting edge in AI.
Yeah,
because all that stuff is easy, right? Like the world. Well, it's not easy. I don't make games, but
yeah,
it's
that's
super
there.
easy making
That
games.
blueprint's there,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you need the world to react to you. Like if I throw a rock through a window, I want people to recognize that, or
And for my world,
deal with
to-
it in
yeah,
realistic ways. Because that was the original pitch. Remember that when Molyneux first talked about it, he's like, you could listen through the window, and then the game came out and it was nothing like that.
Yeah.
Like they had to scale it back, right? Like what they did.
I mean, I still remember not that this is all that crazy nowadays to think about, but at the time, the idea that you could have your own name, that you could go to the guy and
Hi, Master.
yeah, I remember I was the pilgrim, right?
Yep.
And it was awesome. I was walking around the world and there'd be people oh, you're the pilgrim, right? That was super cool.
That's the DNA I think about, and I agree with Rhino, but is that the name of it was Project Ego for a while, which was about making you the centerpiece of that world. And that's the thing that I thought was the most appealing about Fable. And that was the thing that I loved that was when you killed a bunch of chickens, they were like, you chicken killer, you're the chicken killer. You know what I mean? I loved the way it played back at you and reflected you, the way it was a mirror of what you did in the world.
Yeah.
Say Witcher, which is great, right? You know what I mean? And does all these great stories that you go and you're a part of.
Yeah.
What I loved about Fable and what I really liked was that I was doing those adventure things, but everyone had a different view of me. And it took a lot of cycles to make that work. But I think if you spent time, like Reiner said, working with AI and trying to create things where the world could react to you more. I'm not looking for longer stories from people. I'm looking for people to just even do the simple reactions to me.
Yeah.
Makes it more.
Oh, I like that.
That's the DNA of Fable that made it special.
Yeah.
For me. So I don't know if that's what you wanted, but
Yeah,
that's,
no, I've been trying to think about a developer, and one that's really that sprung to mind since we are lords of gaming, as we've talked about.
Yeah.
We can have.
I said we weren't going to include that, but yes, let's go down that path.
Let's go down that path.
Let's go down that path.
I think it'd be cool to see Nintendo do Fable. Like the team that did Super Mario Odyssey, or even the most recent Zelda, to have them tackle
Could be cool.
Fable. I think you could see some of that similar whimsical quality.
I don't know if they're as willing to take his chances that I think someone needs to take. in
Yeah.
this.
Maybe
That is the
so.
one thing that Peter did well.
needs to be dark.
People got mad at him for being a dreamer, but the fact that he was such a dreamer is that he got that idea through. Do you know
I
what
mean, while we're at it, could we just say Peter Molyneux?
I would.
I mean, let him with a much larger budget and a great team.
And a couple of
underneath him.
designers around him that were equal level, so they could say, "No, Peter, we're not doing
Yes,
that."
we're not doing
right?
that,
Yeah, but
right.
he had great ideas.
And make
too.
him sign a document that says you can't quit the company and move on to a different game before this one's finished.
Wow.
But Joe,
Yeah.
angry.
Yeah. That goddess fiasco is
Yeah.
really something.
That's great, Alex.
Are we still talking about Fable, or are we moving on?
I'm trying to.
Kinda throw it out there, yeah.
If it's the same rule, is there a Xbox franchise exclusive? What would you do if you had a chance? Or am I throwing you up? You could pass.
I grew up with Xbox. That's Halo 3 was the reason I got really into console gaming. I had
So you'd
64
reboot
and
Crimson
stuff like that.
Skies.
Yes, exactly.
Crimson Skies is a good one. But okay, let's hear Alex's.
Actually, you know what? Pass on me for a second. I'm still thinking about
got
this.
one.
Yeah.
Reiner's got one.
I'm going licensed games.
KOTOR?
No.
Oh.
NFL Fever. Bring it back. Give Madden a run for its money. we have this kind of weird monopoly thing going on in the sports games right now.
So you want to be like crazy NFL? Is that kind of...
No, I want just competition for Madden from the first party perspective.
Do you think Microsoft could get the NFL and the NFLPA license? Because that's
Why
kind
not?
of it's kind of the NFL's fault, right? That's
Yeah,
my
it is,
understanding is that
yeah.
the NFL said we want one partner and we're only going to deal with one partner.
You had 2K racing up the sidelines with NFL 2K5 selling it for $20, and then EA's like, let's just lock this down and lock
done
up
with
the
it.
NFL. But I would love to see another
Competition,
company.
yeah.
And maybe because Sony has the first party rights for MLB, I don't know if you could do that in football with NFL, but shake it up. Let's have another football game. Everybody loves football. 2 games on the market wouldn't be a bad thing.
That is a curveball. I would not have guessed you were going to say that. I love creating competition in sports space. I would love to see that back. That would be really great. I don't know that's what I want Microsoft to do, but
that's the only licensed game I could think of for Microsoft, and I'm continuing my Lord stance, so, where the art is dead. So.
KOTOR counts though.
that's a great talker though.
No, it doesn't really.
That was
It was on PC too and all that.
Yeah, it's console exclusive though.
Well, all right, whatever.
I mean,
yeah, do another KOTOR 2.
I choose Flight Simulator because there's no way that's coming. Oh wait, no, that's a bad joke.
It's back.
Joe. What? I know it's back. Joe.
I think Fable kind of
It hit the nail on the head for
that
you?
discussion hits it for me. Yeah.
I'm gonna come in. I feel like, and I'm gonna go off, and I apologize to my friends at both companies. I would love to see. I feel like Halo and Gears, those companies that create them, 343 for Halo, and they were Black Box, but no,
Coalition?
what's the Coalition? Yeah. They're so talented. Their production values are insane. Like they are delivering amazing, high quality production execution on games, and some of the best. And it's definitely impressive. I just wish they would take some chances. I feel like they're always trying to make the thing they made before.
Yeah.
And that's
the
where,
blueprint.
Yeah, and it's like, and to some degree, we talked about someone, we were talking about being the like, hey, let's give the Skyrim this, like, but doesn't having Skyrim give them all these rules of Skyrim that they have to follow?
Yeah.
And part of the reason I was like, I knew Rockstar would be like, I don't give a shit. No, just about your rules, right? I don't care. And I want the Halo teams, I want Coalition, I want them to go, here are all the things that make a Gears game and make all our fans happy. Crumble, 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 garbage can, right? I don't need kind of like the aesthetic of Gears. I feel is very 90s. I feel like it's in a different era. I would love them to just change it up. I'd love to see something different. I think their enemies, like the Locust Horde and everything like that, are pretty universal. But I'd love to see just like a new look to the way the characters behave. And it doesn't have to be so over the top. I think they could get very, they always did interesting stories, you know what I mean? But I think they could tell them in different ways that would be more attractive as a franchise. And that's where Halo, like I said this a little bit, like Bungie moved on to make Destiny, which is like, sometimes I'm like, this would have been the next Halo. And I feel like Halo should take that next step. Like, and I know they're working on a new game now, and I would just love to see both those franchises because there's so much opportunity in them. I really look at them and go like, number one, the chainsaw gun is brilliant. Cliffy B, you came with that. That thing is great. There's a lot of great gameplay mechanics in that. Halo, of course, is a. I mean, we talked about it. It's one of the greatest franchises in gaming history, right? It's going to make a top 300 list. Like, I just want to see those games evolve, and I think they should be. If they get too caught up in not evolving, they need someone there to just go, nope. Super derivative of the old games, get rid of it, do something new, right? Like, oh, we have to have a warthog level. Like, I love the warthog, but let's move on. Let's do something different. Let's make a horror game. Let's do some things.
I've always said like Microsoft sequels are like Stretch Armstrong dolls, where you could stretch it in a direction of good ways, but it's still the same thing, right? Like there's some new experience to it, but it all kind of snaps back to what it is, right? It'd be nice to see him like do a horror Gears of War experience because they tease that. Like, give it to Monolith, the condemned team, have that chainsaw like gun in first person. That'd be amazing. Take some shots.
Take some shots. Yeah.
I think maybe we're getting that with the new Halo.
And maybe we are. And we're judging things in progress. I get it. And we're being hypercritical. I get it. You know what I mean? And I know their fans are like, I want every Gears. We talked about it earlier. I want every Gears to be just like the first Gears and every Gear. Like they want that. But I do think they could.
That's fine.
They could. But I just think they could reach new people by reinventing those, like to reboot and not because I don't want to just throw that out there, but just like really go for it. Go for something really different, because those are great names and great universes that could do more.
Like, they kind of did that at E3, but I kind of ended up laughing at it. Like, what was it, 2 years ago? They're like, we have 3 Gears of War games coming out. And it was like, oh, cool. They're taking some chances with it. And it was like, we got a Funko Pop game. And it was like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
And then like a turn-based strategy game. I was like, that's not even out yet. It's like...
Which I like turn-based strategy games, but I just didn't want that from Gears.
Yeah, it's like, what?
I think the template to follow, Andy, from what you were talking about, is something like the new God of War. And I know it's easy to say, like, hey, make God of War. It's a good game. Yeah. But, like, you know, going and talking to that team about how they approached a reboot of this franchise that I think was falling into the same trap that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
It's like by the time God of War 3, even though that was, or Ascension especially, right? Like, it had become such a known quantity in so many ways. They were sort of bound by expectation, and when they set about making this new game, it seems like they were pretty brutal in terms of like, what do we need in this game? Well, we always have this in God of War. We don't need it. It's not going to be in this one.
Yeah.
You know, like...
I think there was also the challenge, we talked about this in various video formats when the game first came out, but on the Halo front, I think the most recent Halo game was just, to some degree, had some fumbles to it. I think they did try some new directions there. But some of the choices they made, whether it was in storytelling and the way they interpreted and moved certain characters in certain direction, Cortana in particular, like felt off.
Yeah.
For longtime fans. And they tried to do some things that were kind of compelling with like really doubling down on the idea of like, when you're a Spartan, you're like a superhero soldier, and they got close to it, but it wasn't quite there, especially because it was in competition with the people who used to make Halo, and like Bungie makes really, really great gunplay, and they had their own game where you were kind of a superhero soldier.
Yeah.
Right? And so I feel for them, but at the end of the day, it was a game that just didn't click for me. And I was a guy, like I was a Halo guy, right? Like that was really
and ready to go.
I was ready to go, and it just didn't add up to the right changes that time. And so I think they're in a tight spot now. We don't know anything about this next Halo game. Like we really don't. We're not like obfuscating here.
But I think it has a little bit of Star Wars syndrome to it as well. That like it gets weighed down by like we did all these books, we did all these comic books. There's all this lore that's all there that becomes very hard to like shake off.
Yeah.
You know, like I even feel like Disney wasn't going to finish with 9 episodes of Star Wars, and they're like, look, we got to get away from this Skywalker guy. Not that Luke Skywalker's not great, but you know what I mean? Like they're like, if we're going to tell new stories, like if we're going to change Star Wars and the way it's going, we got to shake that off.
Yeah. Like
right?
The Mandalorian's a perfect example of like, that's what we want.
Yeah. You know,
a whole new thing in Star Wars universe, right? And it's awesome.
And I think that's something they could do.
Yeah,
and do a lot of fun.
agree.
And if you want to stick something that you're sticking to, I mean, there is no fan out there that if we said they're going to make one wacky, totally off the wall Halo game and a regular Halo game, they'd be like, oh, 2 Halo games. Oh, shucks. I don't want that. Like, I mean, people would be thrilled with them doing that, and they might stumble on something great. Alex, are you ready now?
Yeah. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to blaspheme like this, but we're going to take chances.
I love it. I'm ready. Let's get some blasphemy.
Yeah. We were talking about companies being beholden to the legacies that they've set up. And I think Halo is a prime example of that. And honestly, my favorite 2 Halo stories are ODST and Reach. And those both don't have Master Chief. And just like The Mandalorian is doing a lot to bring me back as a Star Wars fan, I wouldn't be opposed for them to put Chief back into cryo sleep for a while.
No, just kill him.
Yeah, just kill him. Yeah. You know? Because I think a lot of people didn't like Reach because it didn't have Chief in it, but I have some issues with that multiplayer that I personally had. But I think that's a good way to say we have stories. This is an interesting sci-fi universe. Like we don't have to have like the silent soldier that's out there.
I think you make a good point, which is that like Halo, it was a product of its time, right? Like the first Halo when it came out felt fresh and felt exciting. And we didn't, at that point, have a problem with this sort of silent, gruff protagonist being the way that he was. We loved that. But partially because of the success of that franchises and others that followed suit, there's something that feels kind of stale there now that needs to be refreshed somehow.
Yeah, I always thought I think it's gonna be interesting to see if they do it this generation, but Naughty Dog has always amazed me with their like, hey, we made these choices, like this character doesn't talk.
Yep.
And then they get to a new generation where things change and they go like, he talks now. Do you know what I mean? Like we had that decision, we made that decision then because we were like budgeting how we made a game, and that's how games were made then. But here's the new technology, and here's what we're able to do and expand on, and moved on.
Or
and
even just move to a new franchise.
That's what I'm saying. And they and they would take it to a whole new thing to do that. And like we saw that, like one of the games that's listed here is The Last of Us, which is like that was a new entry from just a very accomplished team. And like again, I've said I think the Halo teams and the Gears teams are extremely skilled teams.
Yeah.
Right. The challenge there was not doing Uncharted 16. It was make The Last of Us, right? Make something new that leaned into what the new technology had to offer. And as we come here to a new generation, it's coming up, right? Xbox, whatever, PlayStation 5. There's a chance, right, to do something new. So I hope they take that opportunity because I think it'd be fun. And Crimson Skies, we wouldn't mind Crimson Skies.
God, that'd be great.
You know,
Make it a Star Wars game. But
X-wing.
Exactly.
There you go. Well, I mean, you know, Star Wars does make a lot of things better sometimes, you know. But we need other worlds to make it. You know, we want more worlds.
yeah,
There are many worlds in Star Wars.
Is there
the Outer Rim, baby.
do they have it? Does Microsoft have an Am I totally spacing? Do they have like an RPG franchise like at all in their stable?
Other than Fable?
Fable.
They just Fable?
I
I guess
They
I was
had a lot
thinking
of
Fable's kind of
stinkers along the way.
they had
Lost Odyssey,
Yeah,
and
Lost
Blue
Odyssey.
Dragon.
and Blue Dragon. Yeah,
Those were
yeah.
good.
So those much more kind of
Sakaguchi,
distinctly Japanese RPG style. I'm trying to think. I bet there's at least one we're forgetting that's sort of a more Western style RPG. But it slips.
Well, they'll have one now because they'll make the next Outer Worlds and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
They'll blow that thing up, which will be great.
Mass Effect was a Xbox exclusive to start, right?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to see them take a chance like Sony did on Spider-Man and get like see what like Batman. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way they'd actually license just Batman to Microsoft, but I'd love to see them try to go get something like that.
Yeah, Warner Brothers isn't giving away the bat to anybody. They're going to keep that money themselves. But yeah, I think that, and just like since we did a little Lord of Gaming, I did think of this too. I still want someone to make a remaster of Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, all with the same control, clean up the story so all three of those games are all in the same
Like one big
engine,
unified,
unified remaster along the lines of Resident Evil 2, where you're like this part was a little clumsy. Let's change it, right? I'm okay
You
with
still
them
have the
making-
Rachni Queen, but we've redesigned the level to be like a modern video game level.
Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we say this understanding that this is not like, hey, it's just a simple remaster.
No, we know
Like,
it's not
No,
simple,
it's like
yeah.
a new game. It
like a new
It
game.
would basically be a new game,
Yeah.
but I want that.
I want that.
I want that so
We
bad.
can't do
Yeah.
better than the first three.
Yeah,
so we're just
every-
going to make it again.
Every year on N7 Day, I sit there and just hope that there is some kind of announcement like that. And
It would be great, and that's the other thing
Never
too.
happens.
That to me is that if they made that, and I think the way the fans would react to it, and I got no market research in front of me. It's just I feel like if people love that thing, that would be how we'd get to have Mass Effect come back and be a bigger franchise again. That they would understand what people want. I think after that point,
They
'Cause
need a
in terms-
win. Yeah.
honestly, I think the fact that we haven't even seen like a remaster of it speaks to the fact that like that something behind the curtain there must just be terrible. Like, well, I mean, like from a technology standpoint.
Oh, I
like
what you're saying, yeah.
like something from a technology standpoint. I know that there were some sort of, I don't know the right way to put it, maybe like slapdash solutions to make certain choices carry over from game to game and things like that. So maybe that is just such an impossible spider web at this point that they would basically just have to start over to make it happen.
I suspect there's some degree to which it would have to be a start over, if only because the tech, right? You'd be building it for tech that's now through 3 generations later than the first game.
Yeah,
right?
but God, you could do that main story and all the stuff there and do a bunch of new side quests.
It'd be
It would be
awesome.
so awesome.
Yeah.
It'd be so awesome. I would because You get to 3, and the controls are finally really, really
Awesome.
great.
Yep.
And you're like, man.
Like, take the best elements of each of the 3.
Yeah. All together.
Yeah.
It would be so good.
Yeah, it would be so good. So let's end on that.
I'm sad now. I want
note.
that.
Let's end on that note. I last week we made this section got real long, and we're doing it again. So thank you for listening. Please send your questions, your comments to podcast@GameInformer.com. Also, your funny, witty jokes. I like those. They entertain me. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone here on the panel. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on and talking games. You are amazing lords of gaming. Yes. I appreciate it. Thank you all for listening. We have an interview here in the final. Well, we still have Game of the Year talks coming, which we have special guests for that, which is so exciting. So not non-members of the Game Informer team, so surprise.
Ooh. So
a little like kind of outside our realm, just to more talk about games and games in general. So we have that chat, and at the end I have an interview with Alex Hutchinson from Typhoon Studios and his new game, Journey to the Savage Planet. Was actually here in Minneapolis, so he came in, is in the studio. It was very nice to have him in, and he talks very, very, very accomplished game dev, has lots of insights that I think you'll enjoy.
He's a fun guy to listen to.
He's a fun guy to listen
Absolutely.
to. So stay tuned for that. It's great, and we'll be back here shortly. Thank you for listening. Hello, and welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I am Andy McNamara, your host, and here in our Game of the Year chat, which I just want to explain quickly, I've been doing this. This will be part 4 now, where we've been. I just want to sit down and talk to people about games that matter for them this year. What's their favorite game of the year? What's defined their year as a gamer? And I've been doing that with the staff, and actually, I by chance. And by chance, we actually kind of planned it, but I didn't think about it until recently that we had 2 amazing guests in town, once again working with Game Informer as we kind of try to preserve our history, because Game Informer has been around for a while, with the Video Game History Foundation. So we're very lucky to have Frank Cifaldi and Kelsey Lewin to join us today for the Game of the Year chat. So not editors, so we're not going to judge you.
Okay.
But I do want to hear what you're playing, what you've been doing, and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, we have Andy Reiner.
Hello.
Back again.
Yeah.
Second part. He was actually, it's funny, when we finished the segment last time, which is his first time on this, he was like, that's it? I had so many more games on my list.
right.
And I was like, You'll be back.
Yeah.
You'll be back. So
here I am.
Reiner has more games that he wants to go through. And of course, Alex Stadnick is in the box
Yes,
for us.
I am.
How you doing?
I'm great.
So, we've gone through a lot of games,
Okay.
and I know you are busy saving video game history. And by
Right.
the way, you two are adorable with the same shirts on.
Aren't we awful?
And the same
matching
drinks.
drinks?
and the same
Yep.
drinks. I think it's fantastic.
I'm very sorry, everyone at home.
And so we also, if anyone doesn't know who Frank is, we did a story in the mag October.
Yep.
Which was great because you guys have, both of you have spent more time than you probably ever thought you would in Minneapolis.
We were residents of
Yeah.
Minneapolis.
Temporary residents of Minneapolis in May because we stayed 30 plus days.
That's so
helping
crazy.
you out. This is my 8th week total in the last 2.5 years.
It's so nuts. And it's
Yeah.
gone so fast. I mean, I didn't realize until you said the other day, it's like, we've been doing this, Andy, for like 3 years. And I was like, really? It's gone that fast?
Yeah.
It's a long story. And by the way, one that we have been secretly working on a documentary for that at some point when the story is done, we will share with everyone. And I'm excited to do that. So, but you guys are back. This probably won't be your last visit. We say it'll be your last visit,
Probably
but
won't.
it probably won't be.
We just love to visit Minneapolis in winter. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect time.
Yeah.
Bring us back in January, February. I heard it's worse in January and February. So
It is worse in January.
all right, we
February.
got to see. We've done November, we've done December now. We got to.
and I think one last two things I want to bring up too is that you guys also have, to some degree, day jobs or other jobs that you do. Could you tell us a little bit about that before we get on the Game of the Year stuff?
Yeah, to your point, we're both volunteer for the foundation. we haven't figured out how to raise money to actually pay ourselves yet. So what I do on the side, not nearly as much as I used to, but I work for a studio called Digital Eclipse as my side hustle, and I've worked on a few collections of older titles that kind of preserve their history, and we scan documents and
Sounds so familiar.
yeah, it's almost like it's my life. And so I was the producer director of Mega Man Legacy Collection and SNK 40th Anniversary Collection,
Cool.
which I think was last year, so I shouldn't talk about that.
That's fine.
And then I helped out a little bit on Street Fighter 30th and Disney Afternoon.
Yeah, and I think that's so cool that because it is your passion, and it really shows through on those games and the kind of extras
you.
that you bring and all the stuff and the kind of history and the things that if you are interested in games and like learning about their history, you do a great job. That's what
Thank you.
That just a little inside baseball. That's why I called Frank. I mean, literally, it was from the lessons learned from what I'd seen and what obviously your reputation precedes you as far as like a historian. And Kelsey,
My husband and I own 2 video game stores in Seattle, Washington called Pink Gorilla Games. So retro, import, current, all that stuff.
Plush toys.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
awesome. That's what's prepared you for a life of video game history preservation.
That and, I mean, I'm a researcher, but that doesn't pay. The thing that pays the bills is running the store.
Well, and Kelsey had been doing some historical research, YouTube videos, like, even when she started volunteering for us. So she had it in her blood already.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
just hadn't found a job for it yet.
I
Still
should point out
haven't.
as a little bit of a preview. One of the things I loved having you guys here was that I would go, oh, that thing that I've just been like collecting in the corner and it's been just like stagnant and it's covered in dust. You guys would walk in and be like, oh my God. And you guys were so excited about so many things. And I was like, thanks for coming and going through our closets. And you're like, this is the best thing ever. and I it was so fun. Your enthusiasm about it was really great.
Well, that's the thing with this material is that you just can't predict when it's going to be a gold mine. When it's going to be like, oh my God, this story that I've been working on for 2 years, like this stupid press release is the one key that unlocks everything. Like you just never know with these things.
You never know. And when I just kind of, and I did it off the cuff and it's got a ton of typos. I did the like, hey, this is the story of this Zelda thing because I walked into my laundry room and there was that pillow from the Zelda train trip. And then you followed up with like, we have a copy of the press release and your itinerary. And I was like, of course they have my itinerary.
You filed it.
I
It was in the filing cabinet. You put that aside.
like once again, Reiner and I are known hoarders, and it's a problem. And we've been lucky
It's not a problem.
that no one ever stopped us.
It is the opposite of a problem
I know.
when
The
it
biggest
comes to
win.
what
Well,
we
you
do.
two are the ones that are thankful for our
Yes.
problems.
You hoarded
Yes.
it for us. You just didn't know.
We didn't know it. We didn't know it. So it's super exciting. We're great to have you here, and thank
Thanks.
you for joining for the Game of the Year talks. So we've gone through a lot of games. Like I said, this week forward, we can revisit games. It doesn't have to be a game that I just want to know what games mattered to you this year, defined your years as a gamer. And I know you guys are super busy doing a lot of stuff, but Frank,
Yeah. Hi.
what you can pick just one. We should talk about one game. What one game have you
Okay.
enjoyed this year, or has defined your year?
Okay, so I mean, obviously, no one's talked about this little indie game called Untitled Goose Game.
Oh,
yet,
yeah,
right?
okay,
so,
yeah.
So I could
What's the
introduce
title again?
that one. Untitled Goose Game. I
But
don't know if
that can't exist.
I don't know if they've named it quite yet. It's kind of an early access. I mean, like if I'm reflecting on like the game that was most meaningful to me as a player this year, it would be Untitled Goose Game. I mean, there hasn't been a game like that for me since the original Katamari.
Oh, wow.
Where it's just like, this is a game about delight. Like, this is a game that's just purely here to make you happy.
That's a game that's fun to like not even do the objective in.
Right.
Like actually just walking around and making goose noises and flapping your wings at people is fun.
Yeah, and it's,
Just mess around.
I mean, it's not like maybe 5 years ago it would have been even more of a breath of fresh air when things were more hyper violent all the time. But it still felt to me like a very fresh idea and a very fresh take on just what you do with these interactive toys on the TVs.
Yeah. So, I mean, did you sit down and like just like annihilate it on like a Friday night, play through the whole thing?
I played through it in 2 or 3 just very casual sessions.
So it really like resonated quickly with you and you thought about it as you walked away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It just, again, like what really stuck with me was just that it's such a simple design, and it's you're a jerk, right? To the people, but you're a goose, so it's okay. So it's like,
it's silly.
You can't help it, right? You can't help being a goose.
Okay,
Geese are
gotcha.
jerks.
All right.
So I just appreciated being able to mess with people, but it's okay.
Yeah. So since you aren't one of the editors, so I think some of our listeners and readers have like a familiarity with like their history and like their favorite types of games are. Like, what kind of gamer are you? If you could like just kind of quickly put that.
I am a sit at home by myself and get through the story gamer.
Okay,
if that makes
gotcha.
sense. So
Yeah,
I'm not much of an online player.
So God of War last year, did you go through that?
I didn't actually. I mean, it's maybe on the short list of games I would pick up next time I'm ready for like a AAA experience.
But you like classics a lot.
Sure, but that doesn't mean that I don't like a better. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
okay, gotcha.
I like all games. I think games are better now by far than ever. But I just the sort of newer AAA experience, I do maybe like 2 or 3 a year at this point.
Gotcha. Yeah,
and that's the kind of gamer I am these days, and it's been that way for like a decade, really.
What makes you choose a game? That it has a goose in it?
No, it's. I think what makes me choose a game is like, okay, I need a game like that right now.
Okay,
what's going on right now? So like Spider-Man last year was just the exact right time in my life where it's like I've been working really hard. Like I need to like have a thing I go home to for like a week. So like
it's a good choice, by the way.
It was a good choice.
It's a very good choice.
I did play through the DLC this year.
Oh, really? That's great.
So there you go. I have a second one.
See,
oh my god,
you've been busy. Well, that's great.
Yeah. There's another game that was meaningful to me, but not.
Well, you only get to do one at a time.
Okay.
We'll come
We're
back
going
to you.
around.
We're going around. This is we
Great.
get everyone. We're equal opportunity here to hear everyone's Goose Game.
Can I just have Kelsey's slot?
No. So Kelsey, do you have any games that have meant something to you? That's your game of the year. Do you have something that sticks out for you?
Yeah. Well, okay. I loved Goose Game, but I won't talk about that. I feel like I got to go with Pokemon, even though it's maybe not the best game that came out this year. But
good choice.
I'm someone who I grew up on Pokemon.
Yeah.
I am the exact Pokemon age. Like, it was for kids when it came out, and I was a kid when it came out. And I've played. This is actually the very first Pokemon release day that I've missed since Gold and Silver.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
I was traveling, so it wasn't on purpose. But I missed it by 3 days, so I was a little behind. Yeah, I'm really liking this one. I think we've all been playing Pokemon for a very long time. Having that open wild area in this is something that I think we've just kind of always... It's like what the Safari Zone felt like when you were like
what you wanted
a kid.
from it, yeah.
And what you really wanted it to be, and it wasn't. But it's just this big open area where the Pokemon are real and walking around, and some of them are too high level for you to fight right now, and it feels very natural in the way that like a Pokemon world should feel like.
Yeah,
And so that
agree.
kind of thing was really good for me, especially following. Do you guys see Detective Pikachu? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the same kind of deal where it's like, oh, look, they like exist in this world. It's not just this video game that has them in the grass but nowhere else,
Yeah.
It was everywhere. So, Sword and Shield. And I'm playing a Sword, by the way.
I think everybody, it's got to be 99% of people bought Sword just because it's a cooler item
It feels like that.
than a shield.
But, okay. But
Offense
they got
versus
the...
defense.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But they got that Ponyta in the like,
It's a sword.
the My Little Pony looking one in Shield. But yeah, and Sword, I mean, I had to go with Sword because of the Galarian Farfetch'd, his big eyebrows. He's an exclusive Pokemon to that. I know you're like glazing over right now. What is a Pokemon?
That sounds nice.
So you're at the store and you've grown up on Pokemon. So what did you think of all the like kind of controversy going in and the anger?
gosh.
I mean, like what did that
It doesn't
color your view of the game at all?
It doesn't surprise me anymore with like hardcore of any Nintendo franchise. I used to be surprised by it. Like, why would the Pokemon fans be the angry ones? But now I'm just like, yeah, of course, the Pokemon and the Animal Crossing fans, whatever, like those are the angriest people, of course. Yeah, I mean, I miss having some of my favorite Pokemon in the game, but in terms of the actual gameplay, I haven't missed it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel the same way. It's like my favorite Pokemon isn't in the game, but it hasn't mattered to me.
It's always been about catching the new ones.
Yeah.
And then it's just kind of an added bonus, like, oh, I got another Squirtle. You know, like
you experiment with the new stuff. I'm playing in a kind of a weird way this time. I decided that I was going to make my own hard mode. And some people do, there's versions of this online or whatever, but I really like bird Pokemon. It's like, I'm going to have a team of only bird Pokemon. Okay. I'm going to see if I can beat the game that way. It's
so that's
hard.
your first playthrough is just all bird Pokemon?
Yeah, it's hard. There's not good type coverage. It's not easy, but
I was taken aback by the Pokemon they did remove though. Like a lot of the starters, like the main, like I was like,
not having Squirtle
those are some
and Bulbasaur
weird,
in there.
Yeah, those were some weird choices. Like I didn't see that coming.
Mewtwo?
Yeah.
Did you see there was a really hilarious, someone had edited the intro to the Pokemon anime, the theme song, and they had just edited out all of the Pokemon that I'm missing from Sword and Shield. It's hilarious. There's a point where Bulbasaur jumps into Ash's arms and he's just standing there outstretched.
Nothing.
It's great.
Sometimes the internet's real great.
What starter did you go with?
Oh, I went with Score Bunny, but I abandoned him immediately
because he's
for my
not
birds.
a bird. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, but I did name him Max, like Salmon Max.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Nice. Yeah.
It's cute.
Very nice. All right, Reiner, you've already brought some games to the table.
Yeah.
So let's go deeper cut.
Let's go with Platinum Games game. Let's go Astral Chain on Nintendo Switch.
Very good.
Yeah, you played it?
I'm not all the way through, so I don't want to
Dabbled
talk
with
about
it?
it yet. I dabbled with it and I loved it, but I haven't finished it.
Yeah, they are one of the masters of stylish action, and they continue to innovate in that space in really kind of crazy and interesting ways, and it always seems to work. Well, not always, but a lot of times it does seem to work, and especially with this one, with the kind of the duet of you and you're playing a police officer dealing with an interdimensional crisis, like an invasion, basically, and you have a beast that's from a different dimension chained to your wrist, and you're controlling that beast and yourself. Like you have bonded with it. So a lot of games where you're doing dual characters at once on both analog sticks, your brain gets all messed up. They're moving the wrong ways. But they do a good job of kind of having the AI take over just enough to kind of lead you where you want to, and then you can kind of do the actions. You know what I mean? And it makes you feel like super badass. Not only are you doing crazy acrobatic stuff, but so is your other guy. And so you get two of these, kung fu masters going bonkers. It's awesome.
I knew you loved that game when I think 2 mornings in a row I kept walking by your office to go by my office, and Reiner kept going, Andy, come here, you got to look at this. And I would do, all right, yeah, Reiner, it's like a platinum game. That's pretty cool. Yeah. All right, see ya. Go to my office next day. Walk by, Andy, you got to see this. That he was so excited.
This is a little inside baseball, but Andy and I would say like games have like an it factor, right? Like when we'd look at games for covers or something like that. But this one, what I was just discussing is that it factor. So I get excited over things that's like innovative and like really well done. So it's like, oh, you got to see this stuff.
It was very
You'll
funny.
Appreciate this.
Yeah. And so that's a great addition, and one that I think I've actually seen a number of people say that's like their game of the year, like kind of caliber. Yeah. Like it is really broken through and has a lot of big fans.
I think I gave that a 9. And just to put that into perspective, me being a Star Wars fan gave Jedi Fallen Order an 8.75. So
yeah,
I like this game. It's a good game. It's a really good game. So if you like action games, you have a Switch, you got to play it. It's so good.
All Platinum games are, well, maybe I shouldn't say all, because I haven't played all of them, but yeah, the Bayonetta games.
Nier Automata, this is, I would say, right there in that conversation with those.
They have had misses, but when they've hit, they really knock it out of the park, right? And so it's just kind of like which platinum do you get? I guess to some degree, but like they definitely have. I think when they've nailed it, they've nailed it. I've got a chance to play that. I've been playing Luigi's on my Switch, which I've been enjoying. But like that's one of those ones that I just hear nothing but good things about. So great addition. Alex, did you even prepare?
I'm always prepared.
Oh, look at that! Look at that!
And in that, I'm never prepared. Have we talked about Apex on this yet?
We have not.
Beautiful. See, I told you I was prepared.
I know.
Yeah. It's another thing where on the first edition of this, when we talked about our if we had our game of the year yet, I don't think Apex is my game of the year, but it's definitely the most hours I've spent in a game.
How many hours?
100 or so.
All right.
It tapered off towards the end of the year because there was just so much to play. I don't know. We don't have a perfect battle royale yet, but this did things that completely changed the game. I think a mark of good art is when people steal from it. And within weeks of Apex being out, Fortnite had a ping system. You know what I mean? Like, there's more streamlining of the loot systems. And I just love, to me, Respawn hasn't missed yet. And Apex is a huge part of it. I love Titanfall and Titanfall 2. And I'm sad that we haven't seen more of that. But I think it took a lot of what made those games great and put it into a modernized, not that Titanfall 2 wasn't modern, but like it took it into a kind of a trendy thing, and I think it really worked. I like the characters, even though the VO isn't always amazing. The gunplay is tight. It's easy to just pick up for a few hours or spend an entire night with, and I haven't played. It's between that and Modern Warfare for my favorite multiplayer game, but I think I was more taken with Apex at the start of the year.
I will say it did an amazing job. And number one, I think they've claimed that it has like over 70 million users, which is insane. Which, if you did love Titanfall 1 and 2, because this is in the Titanfall universe, this makes the reality of a Titanfall 3 a lot higher because it just raised the bar of awareness for Titanfall by a big degree.
Definitely.
And the other thing, too, that I do love about that game, and one of the things that it did, and it did force every other battle royale to do, is that its amount of auto-communication, your ability to not have to have a headset on in Apex is actually kind of stunning. The work that Respawn did to be like, you just like walk by an item and it'll be like, hey, there's a scope over here. You might, you know what I mean? Like that you can get so much communication as a team and to make your team better. Because it is, the battle royale, that first phase of like looting can determine your game,
Definitely.
right? I mean, obviously I know someone who's like, Shroud. He can live with bad loot, right? But for a lot of us, we need a good loot to get to the end and have meaningful competition at the end. But yeah, I agree. I think Apex has been a lot of fun.
Well, you picked the two games with the best gunplay, right?
Yeah.
Modern Warfare and Apex. They're just rock solid in
Don't
terms
forget
of movement.
Destiny in there. I'd just like to throw that out as far as gunplay
Destiny's
goes.
pretty good. It's pretty good, but it is a distant third compared to those two.
Distant third.
Wow.
That's
shots
how
fired.
good they are.
Wow.
That's how good they
wow,
are. Yeah.
Wow. As I wish Matt Miller was here for me to have so we could. I mean, Destiny's gunplay is pretty.
It's very polished.
It's
very
not good.
It's very good, but these are the kings.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Team Runner on that one.
I'm gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Okay.
But
I'm gonna get pummeled after this. This is what I'm hearing. Like Matt Miller and Andy are gonna take me down.
Physically violent?
Oh yeah.
But I would. I mean,
Are you okay? Safe?
I have loved both those games, and Call of Duty this year more than any. I've played more Call of Duty multiplayer than I have any other year.
It's addictive.
This
Gunfight?
year.
Crazy. Gunfight's awesome.
Or are you doing just deathmatch?
I've been doing like the kind of quick queue, and particularly like they were doing these kind of like 24/7 and one map. I've been doing that a lot just so it gives me an opportunity to learn one map, which is very helpful. Though I spent this last weekend, I'm just bringing this as a side story. My friends and I, we were doing a thing where we get the riot shield and a lot of proximity mines and the things that stop and eat rockets as like a setup for objective games and troll people and just annoy people. And it's so funny because you just put up your shield and they don't break. So they're like unloading their entire machine gun, assault rifle, whatever, into the thing, and it doesn't matter. You just sit there and laugh, and then one of your other friends with a riot shield walks up behind him and executes him.
Andy, now that I'm fully employed here, I hate you. You are the worst.
It happened to us, and we were like, that was the worst game I've ever been in, and then we were like, so you guys want to do it?
Yeah.
And then we were like, let's do it. And so we did. But we won. We won every game. It's such a troll. I mean, some people figured it out and they were like throwing. I mean, there are ways to stop it.
Right.
But you have to know how to stop it because otherwise you're like, I'm going to try to solve this puzzle live, and you're not going to solve it live.
They're not gonna have that loadout. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's kind of funny and kind of a poor play, but it was a lot of fun.
Is
There's
this your
nothing
game?
funny about it.
Modern Warfare?
I'm trying not to throw in on the conversation, but I've been enjoying. I'm just backing up that it's very good, and I just want to make sure
It is a very good game.
You are right. The gunplay in that game is very good. I don't like your diss on Destiny, but I do agree on Apex.
Truth hurts sometimes, man.
I do agree on Apex. Apex. Do you have a which legend is yours? What do you go with?
That is a good question. I'm trying to think what I've been playing lately. I really like.
Who's the teleporter? Is that Mirage?
That's I think so. I'm blanking on the character names right now.
all right.
I like the healer.
There's 2 healers at least. The healers are pretty fun. Yeah, it's all right. You don't have to remember their names. Lifeline.
Lifeline's my girl. Not enough to remember her name, but she's my girl.
Which the best part, because we didn't have the camera on this, you could have seen him frantically Googling to get the answer, which I'd like to make sure everyone is aware.
He was just banging his head against the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
running around. Yeah.
I just want to make sure, because I make tons of mistakes on every episode of this podcast, and I want to make sure everyone knows that other people make mistakes on this show too.
I'll
so
make
I am
some.
not alone. It's talking games for a long time. So we've circled back around, Frank. This is your time. Even though I cut you off before,
All right, good.
We are back.
I want to talk about one that I'm not talking about because it's one of the best, but it was one of the most meaningful to me and has
Gotcha.
an interesting story behind it that I don't think I've seen anyone but me talk about. So there was, and it's kind of cheating because I work next door. So it was a Digital Eclipse product. It was called, I don't remember the final title, something like Disney Classics Collection, Aladdin and Lion King. It was the thing that had Aladdin and Lion King on it.
Yes.
There's something in there that I think a lot of people glossed over that's really fascinating. Let me take you back in time a few years.
Please do.
So the Video Game History Foundation, sometimes we get stuff that we're kind of not supposed to have.
Yeah.
But it's kind of given to us to keep safe, and we figure it out later.
Yeah.
Something that was gifted to us quite a while ago, actually before I even founded the thing, it was like given to me as a person for safekeeping, was the original source code for Disney's Aladdin on the Sega Genesis. Yeah, it was David Perry's source, and it had all the art and stuff in there. And one of the first things so at the foundation, one of our goals is basically to get the industry more comfortable with letting historians access behind the scenes material, like source code, right? So like, for if you're studying film or like a novelist or whatever, like you could probably go to a library and get, raw cuts of like dailies if they kept them, right? Or like the original script.
The cutting room floor stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We don't have that for video games at all. I didn't want to just put the source code out there because it's, first of all, property of the Walt Disney Corporation.
Yes. You may have heard
the
of
wrong
them.
people to mess with.
But second, like, there's sort of a common sense line, and they were actually selling the game on GOG. They were selling the DOS version. Like, okay, they're making money from this game. We're just not going to mess with this. But I do want to experiment with showing the world what an historian can do with source code. So we wrote up this really long article that just digested the Aladdin source code. And it was one of our volunteers, Rich Whitehouse, wrote it up, and he was able to rebuild the game. He was able to do things like literally find cut enemies in the trash, like in a folder called trash.
Literally.
Yeah. Like we found like the complete animation for these cut enemies, and then in the source code over here, he found the behavior that was like commented out. So he like rebuilt it and like put it in the game. We showed what that enemy would have looked like, stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
We just completely, like broke down how the tools worked, what the animation tools work, what Tommy Tallarico used to compose the music, and like, here's what it looks like, here's the animation tool. And again, we just did that as an example of like, look, we're not giving away your trade secrets.
Yeah.
We're celebrating the work that you did.
And it's also, I think it's important to note for anyone that's listening and is not aware, these 2 games at the time were examples, like they were like Toy Story, when everyone was like, look at this, what computer graphics can do.
Yeah.
To some degree in games, this was the first time that really we had that level of animation that you would have said look like a Disney product.
Yeah, and it actually was, you probably know, it was Disney Animation that did it.
Yeah.
So we published that article, and it's actually not an exaggeration to say that article is what led to this project happening, first of all.
Oh, wow.
Which is already a cool story, right? So it's like, by demonstrating what an historian can do with source code, we actually made that game commercially viable again. I think you could make that argument. But what's even cooler is that in the the product, there's something we call Aladdin Final Cut. And Rich, who wrote that article for us, using our source code, actually like fixed the game a little bit. So we had access to the original team members and stuff like that, and they're like, I never liked this part. I would fix this if we had the opportunity, if we had more time, you know. So like there's actually a build in this game of Aladdin that's like a little bit more of what they intended, and I'd like to call it like a day one patch for a 25-year-old game.
Yeah, exactly.
So it improves the physics and stuff. It adds a couple little secret areas and things like that, and it's just meant to be like a cleaner alternate take on Aladdin. I don't think that's ever been done in video games before.
That's amazing.
Where someone has dug up 25-year-old source code and like messed with it a little bit and fixed it and then republished it.
To be fair, there's not that many 25-year-old source code to dig through.
That's true.
So it is unique in that, and that's super cool. And what a great collection of anyone. Like those are two like landmark games in the history of games.
I don't like either one of them.
You don't?
They're so much more bearable with the rewind.
With the rewind, sure, yeah.
So you don't have to nail
Well,
all
that's
those
back when
jumps
games
and
used to
stuff?
be hard.
I respect them both. I think the combat in Aladdin feels like I'm just kind of rubbing a towel on people until they disappear. You know,
Gotcha.
like there's Although the Final Cut actually does address that, which is my feedback. my only participation in this game. Well, I scanned some artwork, which is now in our archive, which is really cool. Mike Dietz, who was the art director, kept a lot of that animation, and it's now in our library.
Oh, cool.
So like you could theoretically, we're not entertaining people, but you could theoretically come to our archive right now and like look at the source code and the animation art. And like every review of the game at the same time, you could write the book on Disney's Aladdin.
Yeah, which is eventually that's the goal of the
the
foundation. Just so everyone understands.
But to me, it was important to see the realization of our vision. You know, which is like it's first of all, it's okay. Like if people can look at this stuff, and you're not going to go out of business, and people aren't going to clone your games or whatever. You know, like just kind of let us celebrate.
Or I know you guys were trying to get a game that a rare game that went up in Japan on eBay that I think a lot of people were trying to stop you guys from getting it because they were like, they're just going to steal it and put it online. There's like this misconception.
I wasn't even going after that, but yeah.
Yeah, there's like this weird misconception that you guys are out to like pirate every game that's come along, and it's like, have you guys met Kelsey and Frank? They're not pirates.
I'd rather the pirates just get that game and put it online. I just don't want to be involved.
You're not supposed to support pirates, Frank.
That game is like 40 years old. Not literally, but you know, stuff that old. It's like just put it online.
I think what you mean, and I'm not trying to be, I'm being obnoxious here a little bit. So like it's a shame that it's unable to be attainable, right?
Yes.
That's the thing.
The shame is that there's no other path but piracy.
Correct.
That's the shame.
That's the problem, right? Is that there needs to be a way for these important things that are a part of video game history to be accessible in some way.
Yes.
Right, and that's the difference. I just want to clarify for you a little bit, not to be a jerk.
I kind of like piracy of old stuff.
All right. Well, on that note,
I like taking away from your business, Kelsey.
Kelsey, do you have any other games that meant something to you this year?
Yeah, I don't have like a cool story behind any of my games, though.
That's not fair, man.
I just played games.
He's cheating and he's also like promoting his own thing.
It's her thing too.
I'm into the game.
I was not involved on.
I actually didn't work on that game.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't know. These are probably all things you guys have talked about already. Let's talk about Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
You guys like Fire Emblem?
You know what? I'm starting to sense that you might be a Switch Nintendo fan in some way.
Not necessarily a Nintendo fan, a handheld fan.
Ah, okay.
And right now, that's only the Switch. That's it. That's the whole.
I believe I picked up from following you on Twitter that you're a Wonder Swan fan?
Yeah. No Wonder Swan games came out this year, though.
Yeah, no, they did not. Which people are going like, what is a Wonder Swan? So before you tell us what you think of Fire Emblem, I think we should maybe do a little side note here. I think it's a sidebar that's interesting. I'm like, why do you love the Wonder Swan?
Because it's a fascinating system. So first of all, the Wonder Swan, you guys might know of a guy named Gunpei Yokoi, the guy who made the Game Boy along with several other things at Nintendo. He left and he started his own company called Kodo Laboratories, and he collaborated with Bandai and created this other handheld that was meant to compete with like the Game Boy Color era. I mean, sort of Game Boy Advance a little bit, but mostly Game Boy Color. It's a handheld. It was only released in Japan and then sort of in Korea, but
I have one.
Do you?
Uh-huh.
Which one?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I just know
Is
I
it in
have
color?
it. It's, no.
Okay, you have the first one then.
Yes, I do.
So there's 3 Wonder Swans. There's the Wonder Swan, it's a Wonder Swan Color, and then the Swan Crystal, which is basically just like an upgraded screen, better battery life. It's the same thing. And it's exactly the same like idea as the Game Boy versus the Game Boy Color. One is black and white, one is color, and sometimes and it's backwards compatible, and occasionally there's like 1 or 2 color games that you can play on a regular Wonder Swan. Anyways, the system is fascinating because it has 2 different orientations. So most games, like the Game Boy, it's just you hold it one way. The Wonder Swan can be held 2 ways. You can rotate it. There's some like shoot 'em ups, puzzle games that are on a vertical screen rather than a horizontal screen. So
Lynx did that too a little bit, right? The Atari Lynx. You could do some like co-op and people playing on both sides of the screen.
Yeah.
Vertical or horizontal.
I believe you. I don't know of any games that do that.
You about to get into the Lynx? Is that your next frontier?
No.
By the way, I love the Lynx. Back in
Lynx
the day.
is amazing.
I really did like the
interesting
Lynx.
system.
I look back at it now when I find, because I actually have a show That's why I know I have a Wonder Swan, because I have a shelf that's got like my Mattel football, right?
The
and
handheld
like
shelf,
it's
yeah.
like the handheld shelf. Like I know it's a little cliche, but I have the Wonder Swan there, and I have the Lynx there, and every once in a while I walk by and go, man, I love that system. That screen was so, oh my god, that screen is not big.
Just the system's big.
Yeah, just the system is big, which is funny because it is bigger than a Switch.
Yeah.
And a Switch has like a screen that's 18,000 times bigger than the one on the Lynx.
What's the best game on Wonder Swan of all three systems?
Okay.
Your
My
favorite.
favorite is a game called Rhyme Rider Karaikon, which is by the guy who did Vib Ribbon. You
Okay.
guys remember that?
Yeah.
game?
Oh, yeah.
Japanese
Oh, yeah.
PS1 game. So it's a rhythm game, but you like are doing sort of platforming to the rhythm. And that's a Wonder Swan color game, and it's not it's not expensive. It's like a $30 game. As of right, I don't know. Maybe now that I'm recording this, it's going to shoot up. Everyone's like, "Oh, Wonder Swan! I'm going to get one of those now."
I loved mine for the railroad game. I think it was Densha
De Go.
Yeah,
You're a Densha De Go guy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Really?
So that was
I never guessed that.
So there you go. There you go. I actually, because I got it in Japan, I would ride on the train and go to the front of the train to see how to operate it because I couldn't.
Wow.
I couldn't read the instructions on how to play the game, and I was like, "What's that lever do?" I have no idea. So we'd go to the front of the train and be like, "Oh, that's what that does," right? And so like I didn't have an instruction manual, so that was my instruction manual, was to actually ride trains in Japan to learn Densha to Go. So it's its
Wow.
own story. So that's why that's my Wonder Swan love and the reason I like that game.
Have you played other? Because Densha De Go is like a huge series that's been on every system, and there's peripherals for it. You can get one with the lever.
I have seen that, but you know what? I only want to learn that game on trains in Japan.
He flies out to Japan just to do
play.
the tutorial.
So
It's on Game Boy Color too. It's there's
He
other
hasn't
handhelds.
finished this one yet.
so back to Fire Emblem. Thank you for entertaining me with our
See,
little
that was a
side.
good story.
Sure,
Yeah.
it had nothing to do with Fire Emblem.
No, but now's your time.
I have not stayed on subject on this podcast once, so we are
That's all right.
We are
All right,
true to
good.
form.
That's good because it makes me more interesting than the person who played like 5 Nintendo games this year. Yeah, Fire Emblem was really good. I've played quite a few of them, not all of them because there's a lot, and a lot of them are only in Japanese. But this one added a lot of things that I feel like the series was maybe missing. Like, I didn't know it was missing until I played it. But have you guys played like Trails of Cold Steel or any of those? Okay.
I wish Kimberly was here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Kim
really
Wallace,
do.
you're speaking her language.
Yes.
Right
I play a lot of RPGs. This one feels like if Fire Emblem met, I guess Persona is probably a closer thing that
Sure.
more people have played.
Yeah.
Because it adds a lot of like the kind of downtime social system stuff that it hadn't really had in the past. I mean, there's conversations you'd have outside of battle, but now it's like a whole, run around and give people gifts and talk to them and hang out with them, spend time with them. The game was long though.
Yeah, I basically I know everyone's loved it, and then there's been people like I loved it, but I'm glad it's over.
That's exactly
It's like 80 hours for
Yeah.
one
I think
of 3 playthroughs.
Yeah, exactly. I think there was someone at Game Informer who tweeted that like almost word for word, and I was like, yeah, that exactly.
I think it was Serial.
What was your school?
I was the golden deer.
Okay.
And then I started a second playthrough to do Black Eagles, but I was like, okay, there's still technically 3 more storylines to do after that first
Just
one.
a monster of a game.
Maybe I'll do one more. And I got like maybe 8 hours into a second playthrough, and I was like, I can't do this again. It's too much.
Wait, no, there's a billion great games out there, so it's hard to commit that kind of time to games like that. So but that certainly says something. If you finished it, that means you loved it.
I did. Yeah, I mean, I like sometimes, just like what Frank was saying earlier, sometimes I just know that I need a certain type of game, and tactics games are absolutely one of those for me. Sometimes I just need a tactics game. And thankfully Fire Emblem was coming out when I was starting to feel that way, so I played it all the way through. And yes, I mean, it's excellent, but also if you're not a JRPG fan and not a tactics fan, like, don't even try it. It'll it'll turn you off of both of those forever.
That might be the highest scoring game of the year from us.
Is that right?
I think it was a 9.5. I think that might be the highest.
I don't know that I
might be wrong.
I loved it, but I don't even know that I would give it that.
Yeah.
Because I think it was really just pacing was the issue I had. Because it's just so long.
Right.
And every time you finish a major battle, you're kind of thrown back into this slog of getting to the next major battle where you can grind and maybe should grind for a little bit. And that's the part that I didn't love about it. But I don't know, overall, I really liked it.
So I'm going to go off topic for a moment. Since you said handheld is your favorite thing, and we just talked about Wonder Swan, do you have a favorite handheld of all time?
It's probably the Vita.
Is it the Vita?
Yeah, I mean, now it's the Switch.
Yeah.
Because that's like...
It's just getting so many games.
Yeah, it's the thing that I wanted the Vita to be.
Gotcha.
Which was like, all the games that are coming out, just put them there. Make it so that I can play them on the go.
Yep.
And Vita was like starting to dip its toes into that a little bit. It had some of the bigger, more serious games on it, and it also, there had all like the PS1 and PSP titles you could download.
Yep.
So I played through a lot of games like that, like PS1 games I had never played through before on the Vita. And I think the Switch is kind of becoming that now, and I love that it's becoming that for like the last 5 years in gaming too. Like stuff that came out that I wanted to get to, but I knew that I didn't have 50 hours in front of my TV. But maybe I have 50 hours between being on the bus for 20 minutes and, waiting in the doctor's office or wherever, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's great. Fantastic. Reiner.
All right. Picking here. You know what? I'm going to give some love to The Division 2.
Ah.
I think that was the most fun I had playing co-op this year with my friends. Like, that game is ridiculously good. And for reasons you wouldn't expect from an open world kind of looter shooter, it's the linear level designs in the historic Washington, D.C. kind of monuments and museums and stuff like that. That's just fascinating how they use these known places to create interesting gameplay and firefights. It's weird to say that about that game. Like, it works almost better as like a linear shooter than an open world experience. Like, the open world stuff is just basically run from point A to point B to get to these cool battles.
And so I know that they've had some recent kind of like patches or things that people have been really kind of like demanding more content. How do you feel about how it's held up
here's
after
the thing.
year? Because I know it started very, very strong, not just from you, from a lot of
We
people.
played till the end game, and then we were done. Like, we didn't continue on, and we haven't gone back since all that stuff came back. So again, I look at it as a very confined experience for me, at least.
Gotcha.
And then I just kind of left it behind. But that month that we played that, it was awesome.
Is its gunplay better than Destiny?
It's right there.
It's right there.
No, not even close.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So Destiny's isn't just good.
Destiny's is pretty good. Yeah, it's up there.
It's not the top.
Guys, you two, just trying to kill me.
So Division 2, Ubisoft's gotten some flack lately for Ghost Recon and Far Cry, like people just being like paint by numbers open world Ubisoft games, but The Division is kind of the one that stands out in that crowd of like, this is how you do it. Like, Ubisoft makes good open world games. It's just those two weren't up to that level. Right?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a great addition. Great addition. I know that's I know some people made really angry, but the people that did like fall into Division 2, I did not. but every time I listen to them and listen to you now, I go, God, I need to play Division 2. I just don't know how or when, or if there's people there still, or you know what I mean? Like that's always one of those problems I worry about with like looter shooter kind of thing is like, do I have that experience there? Especially this time of year with so many new games just having come out.
It's worth it. Like, it is a long haul, but every time you get to those big new set piece moments, it's like, wow, these are some of the best firefights in games.
Oh, yeah,
it's great.
You're selling me on that.
And DC, like, it's such a cool place to play in. Yeah, it's neat.
Alex.
I, as someone who has played 5 Nintendo games this year, probably more, I loved Link's Awakening, the remake.
That was mine.
And I am so sorry. I'll keep it brief then.
Mine was also going to be very brief.
You guys can both. Let's have you both comment, right?
Okay. It's a podcast.
It's all right. We can team up here.
Being a sprite millennial that I am, I had never played the original, and so this was a completely new experience for me. And I've talked about it on the show before, but I had to do one of my first assignments here as an intern was doing a boss comparison of the first game and the other one. So I got a crash course in the old game too. And I am so thankful for the changes that they made, the little things, because you had to go in the menu so much in that original game. It was crazy. But the modern take on it with like the gorgeous visuals and the fact that it's probably the weirdest Zelda game I've ever played, it was like a breath of fresh air, especially coming off of Breath of the Wild. I love it. Breath of the Wild's probably my favorite Zelda. I know, spicy take, but this is in my top list because of how weird and unexpected it was, and I knew nothing going in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And your?
Well, I was going to bring it up not as a favorite, but it was an interesting discovery for me playing this game. So I love the original Link's Awakening. I didn't play it on a train. I just played it in my house.
Just like normal people do.
You didn't have a pillow matching.
I did not. But I really miss that era of weird Nintendo, like the weird like B teams making the Game Boy versions.
Yeah.
Like that. Like Mario Land 2 is kind of the same.
Yeah.
That's one of my
caliber to me.
favorite games of all
I love
time
that game.
too.
Yeah.
So Link's Awakening on the Switch, I love the art aesthetic. I think is perfect for this game.
Yeah, they really nailed it.
So I got it very excitedly, paid full price, $60, downloaded it. I discovered that the frame rate dips in that game, it's a mental block for me. Like I can't conquer.
They
how
annoy you
angry-
that much.
Yeah, like it's and I don't even know if it's an annoyance. It's almost like I'm just constantly like anxious. Like knowing
Like
that,
awaiting the next
I'm just
slowdown.
waiting for the next time the game is gonna just suddenly like start dropping frames.
You want to go into the source code, don't you?
I want to go fix that game and release the better version, or put it
Day
on
one patch.
I want to put it on a real video game system, maybe. That
Oh, wow. Frank, you are controversial.
Whoa! It's so
Hot
controversial
takes.
that thing is not as powered as the other ones. That's,
Well, I mean, like, I would agree with you. I do think it's a shame that they brought back a game that they had time to work on and get into play. It's called a budget.
Yeah.
Right? Games have budgets, right?
well, and I
if-
assume they
it's-
hit an unfixable bug, or like I don't know, but
Yeah, you assume, but it's also similar to like find that bug or remove some degree of graphical quality
yes.
so that the game will function properly.
Or let me do it as a player, right? Let me turn things off. And,
The blurring around the edges of the screen thing.
They don't
too
do
was-
anything for me.
Was
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Was not a fan of that.
they were
I don't
kind of
know.
going for that. What is it called? Tilt perspective.
Yeah.
Thing with the blurring in the foreground. But yeah, I mean, it was. I seriously played it for maybe like 20 minutes, and it was just like I can't. I'm just mad. Like, and I'm not mad like as a consumer, like, oh, you didn't make the game right. Like I can deal with like slowdown. I can deal with frame rate drops, but it's just like something about how consistent it was, and just like knowing that when I leave this room that like, oh, it's gonna drop frames again. It's just like my anxiety starts kicking up.
Well, I mean, you have been collecting video games for so long. You obviously have some compulsion things that are going to like drive you to where you are. And I can see how the anticipation of the anxiety could drive you away from that game.
I'm not normally like that though. And
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know what it is. I mean, you had it too. I'm not
know.
alone.
No, I played it at E3, and I was like, "Oh, it's an E3. Like they'll fix that."
Yeah.
And then you started complaining about it. I was like, "Oh, they didn't fix it. I guess I won't buy it."
Well, it's crazy because it's so not Nintendo.
It's very not
right.
Nintendo.
And maybe that's why, like, there's such an issue with it. At least for you and for me, is it's just like maybe
might be part of it,
maybe I
yeah.
can deal with it from a smaller studio or something. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
You,
Wrong.
you guys should be perfect. Why are you?
I mean, they did it to themselves, right? Like, to have our expectations be that high,
Yeah.
and for it to be like, when it is that old of a game that you're remaking, like, I think there's a certain, I think it's
should run.
not unfair,
Yeah.
to ask that of the game.
So I've never done this in my life, but I called Nintendo's customer service. And it's like,
Wow.
I want a refund.
No, you did not.
I did. It's like, I want my money back because I can't play this.
Wow.
So they put me on hold like 3 times.
Yeah, they want to give you a chance to think about it.
Yeah, and they came back and they're like, "Yeah, we're reading like Reddit online, like other people are complaining about." Like they just hadn't heard about it,
Yeah.
I guess, and basically like they wouldn't give me a refund because they're like, maybe there's a patch, so wait for that and call us back.
Has there been a patch?
Not that I know of, but they gave me an incident number. It's on my whiteboard at home.
You're gonna call them back. I know you are.
I am gonna probably when I get home. Yeah,
Yeah.
Because now you've redug up the fury for me, and I'm gonna call and get my $60 back because I paid $60 to play this game for 20 minutes. You
Yeah.
know, it's- I'm a customer of yours. I've never asked you for a refund before, but
That's why I always buy physical. You know how easy it is to return a physical game?
yeah, I don't want that crap in my house.
You wouldn't have it in your house. You would have returned it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Actually, now that I think about it, I hate that game. It's the worst.
Yes, I ruined someone's joy. That's what I
guess-
came here to do.
I guess I didn't have that. The stutters weren't enough for me to like ruin the experience for me, and maybe it's just because I went in fresh. But yeah, I see your point though. Like,
I don't think it's because I love the original that it bothered me. Like I don't think it has anything to do with it.
Did you finish?
You just have mental problems.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I actually do think there is some weird mental block in my brain that just makes me very angry at that game. And anyway, I brought it up not as a like let's dunk on this game, but it's just I found that was a
beautiful.
fascinating discovery for me this year.
Yeah.
I like
could,
that story.
Yeah, that I could just not play a game because it drops frames sometimes.
I think we all run into the weird issues with games every once in a while,
Yeah.
right? That a lot of people don't have.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's so great. There's so many different games now. It's okay to walk away from something that annoys you, right?
Yeah, it's like
that's
Destiny's
important to remember,
Gunplay,
right?
and I was just like,
man,
So it's all right, it's good, but
it's okay.
it's not okay.
it's no Apex.
It's not
That's
okay.
my guy. Yeah.
You're just killing me. You're just killing me.
It's
killing
good.
me.
It's good. Bringing joy to my soul.
You're just trying to get in my case. It's great. I make sure I say it. And so you know what? So in the to keep this show, because we went off some tangents.
we did.
I wanted to thank you all for coming and joining me for part 4 of this Game of the Year chat. It was very insightful. Great having you both here.
Thank you.
It was nice to have you as guests. So thank you so much. And as always, Game Informer is a big supporter of the Video Game History Foundation, and you two wearing the same shirt. So
you do support that.
yes, we do support that. So, make sure you go read up about the foundation, what it's trying to do, and what it's trying to do about preservation for games. Ryder and I both, from the moment we became game journalists, it is an important thing to us. It's why we have the vault. It's why we've kept my itinerary for all these years. So we support what you guys are doing and really excited about that. So thank you for coming on and talking games. And that's we have Alex Hutchinson coming up next, Journey to the Savage Planet, an interview with him. And stick around for that. Thank you so much, and we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I am your host, Andy McNamara, and I am joined by a special guest today for our final segment, Alex Hutchinson, Typhoon Studios. How are you doing?
We're doing pretty great. We're almost at the end of our first project, so I've been kicked out of the office on these press tours so I can stop hassling the development team.
I'm sure they're thrilled you're out of the office.
They've been messaging me all day. How's it going at Game Informer? I'm like, it's fine. Have you said anything stupid? Not yet, man. Come on.
That's what we're here. That's what we got you on the podcast for. That's what you get for. So you have a very interesting history. You've been in games for a very long time and worked on a lot of big franchises. And I'm correct. This is your first studio, right? This is your first independent studio. This is the first one that you have been solely a part of. So let's go through your history a little bit. So what was the first game that you worked on?
Oh, gosh. First game I worked on was a Game Boy Advance adaptation of the Steven Spielberg movie Minority Report.
Oh, everybody remembers that one.
It was a huge hit. I think it did 8, maybe 9 copies. The only interesting part of that development was getting an email at some point from Steven Spielberg's assistant who said, I see there are lots of guns in your Game Boy game. And we said, well, there are a lot of guns in your movie. And they said, Steven feels that maybe kids shouldn't see those guns. I think this was the period when, Lucas
he was removing it from ET and stuff.
Yeah, walkie-talkies, right. So they were right into this. I think their kids were little. They had a brain fade. And we're like, well, it's a 3-month production, 4-month production on a Game Boy game. We're just like smashing it out, basically. It was lucky that it booted. And we're like, we can't change it. And he was like, but he has one idea. And he said, there's another weapon in the game called a 6-stick, which makes, you vomit. Could you replace all the guns with this? Because kids love vomit.
No way.
Yeah, and we said no. That's the only good part of that entire development.
That's
process.
actually that's an amazing story. And the fact that they wanted to have kids just vomiting in Game Boy games.
Yeah, in Game Boy games, I don't know. It was almost the 90s. I was about to say it was the 90s. It wasn't. It was barely not the 90s, but it was a long time ago. But
you went on to do. You worked on The Sims.
Yep.
Which is crazy, and also Spore, right?
Yep. Yeah, I was lead designer on Spore, and it was a phenomenal experience. And there's so much of that game I'm proud of. And it's such an odd duck, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be out there in the business.
That was a game ahead of its time, actually.
I think so. I think it would have done a lot better in the modern world. But I was looking, the team was very close. And I received an email from Carol Shaw, who's now at Double Fine, and she was pointing out that it had crossed, I think like 200 million creations or something like that.
Wow.
On online, so it's still out there being played, and you can go to the Sporepedia and see it's still that counter is still ticking. It's like kids somewhere is uploading, some strange creature that they've made.
That's amazing. That was a pretty long development, but that was.
It was long for some of the people that were on there the whole time. It was I think 7 years or 8 years, a really long time. I was only there for the last few years, like the 3 years of that or thereabouts. So I didn't have the full experience, but yeah, it was a long development cycle.
And also, a lot of games, like game developers left Spore and went on to do a lot of great. there's like, if you ever get a chance, I don't have it in front of me, but there are a ton of like really talented people that worked on that.
Oh yeah,
that game.
There's guys Tom Bowie who's at Valve these days. There's Chris Hecker who's got his great indie career doing Spy Party now. Carol Shaw, who I mentioned, who's at Double Fine. Soren Johnson, who's the lead designer on Civilization 3 and 4, who's doing his own stuff. There's an endless list. I think Lucy Bradshaw, our executive producer, runs Oculus.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talent came out of that team.
I felt like that was one of those teams, and The Sims 2 as a franchise was one of those places, kind of like Looking Glass was. You know what I mean? Was just a place where just a bunch of people left and went on to go do a bunch of like crazy things.
Yeah, I think there's like a magnetic attraction for like big ideas amongst talented people, and it has a double-sided. It's a challenging moment in that the game itself can be exciting, but also usually means it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of talent, and then you get a lot of strong opinions in the room at the same time. So everyone's heart's in the right place, and everyone wants it to be great. But those projects can be exhausting.
And so you did 2 huge games with Ubisoft, being Assassin's Creed 3 and Far Cry 4.
Yep, and that was amazing. I was just desperate to get back to console, and to make sort of console action games, which is what I grew up on. It was the Sim stuff and Spore were fascinating, and I loved them, but they weren't sort of as aligned with my personal tastes, if that makes sense. So it was fun to get back to something where I was like, the 14-year-old me would be, lining up on day one to buy it.
Well, that is super impressive. So obviously. Something different, but you went and joined. I assume that a lot of your 2 partners that are listed, Yazine and Reed, were both with you when you worked on Army of Two. Is that where you guys became friends?
Yeah, well, no, Reed and I had worked back at that period when I designed the Minority Report game that nobody played. Reed was working for another publisher at the time in the States, and so I'd pitched a PS2 game at that point for the launch of the PS2, which for some reason they bought, and we had nowhere near enough money. And it's one of the 2 games I couldn't get over the finish line in the last sort of 20 years. But I met Reed then, so like almost 2 decades ago. And then we worked together. We were alongside each other. I was working on The Sims, and he was working on Battlefield. Vietnam at the time at EA.
Yeah.
And then we worked together on Army 240th Day. And then, he was still in Montreal. I was still in Montreal at Ubisoft. And then, now 3 years ago, time flies.
Yes.
We decided to actually try and see if we could make a game together ourselves.
I remember watching you on Twitter. You were like, we got an office, and you went through all those kind of fun startup kind of things, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I remember I don't know whether it's a rite of passage or whatever, but for a while we thought it would be cool to make everyone build their own desks. Yeah. So we had all these people we hired on good salaries with huge CVs, and we're like, welcome to IKEA. You can pick between the white or the beige. You can, and here's an Allen key. So no, but it was fun. It was a lot of things in starting a studio, I think, that are fun to do exactly once.
Yeah.
I don't think Reed ever wants to do payroll again. I think he's now officially sick of payroll. He's discovered why payroll departments existed. That's what he told me.
Well, how big are you guys now?
It's 25 of us and then a couple of contractors. So it used to be the death zone for game development studios, 15 years ago, where you're not so small that you can survive a bump, but you're not big enough to compete with the AAA studios. But it's a sweet spot, I think, in the modern market where you don't have to be a full price game. Journey to the Savage Planet is not going to be full price. And you can do something different, and you don't have to convince Walmart to stock you, next to Call of Duty. So the opportunities are much more diverse, and I think we can survive.
So tell me, so you come in, you have a new studio. How do you decide Journey to the Savage Planet is what you guys want to do?
I think for me, it's these days, it's not so much that you have a specific idea of the game that you want to make. It's more that you have design principles that you want to maintain. Huh. So for me, it's, we sell something that you buy basically on emotion. We were joking at lunch, it's not solving a need for you. It's not curing an illness. And it's not a business decision. It's not like, I need this every day, but you made it cheaper.
Yeah.
We're a pure, emotional purchase. So we have to have something that has a strong flavor and is different to what's out there and trying to hit an emotional beat with people. On the design side, for me, I want exploration and systemic exploration to be a feature. So to enable the player as much as possible to tell their own stories and goof with the stuff that we build. I don't want a game where you're in a button tunnel pressing A to go through cinematics and moving that way. So when you start with those principles and you say, well, what can we do? And then you bring in people and you look at their skill set and you look at the technology that's available and you just start rolling ideas around until you end up somewhere.
So the game comes out in January. So like you said, you're kind of here at the end. You've got things to obviously work through. So, but the exploration, I think, is the key here. That you're building something that's not just like a simple, hey, it's a linear path. This is what you're going to do. You want people to explore the Savage Planet. That's really the goal, right, of the game.
Yeah, I'm that player that, when I boot up Red Dead Redemption, they say, go to this marker on the map, and I spend 20 hours not going to that marker on the map. So I love exploration in games. I think it's one of the the purest expressions of interactivity. As a player, I can say no. Yeah. I'm just going to go and pick leaves for a while, or I'm going to sit down and look at the sunset. I'm going to take my time. I'm in control of pacing and the decisions. So we wanted to enable that for players. So you have an ability to see a sort of rough marker in the world of where to go next, but we're really encouraging people to sort of stray from the beaten path and do their own thing.
Now, I hadn't seen the game, and I'm excited. I get to see the game later this afternoon because we're working for something for the magazine. But when I last saw it, there was a certain silliness to it that I did enjoy. Can you tell me something about that decision to kind of go down that path with the kind of general world?
Yeah. So once we decided, like I said, those sort of principles that we wanted to obey in the game, then it was, well, what can we do that we think will resonate, and what do we like? And the team's kind of a jokey team. So and I like ribald humor. It was like the idea of making a satire started to pop, and then combining that with a sort of a pulpy tone to get back to that idea of an adventure game being positive. The world at the moment can be pretty bleak.
Yeah.
The idea that you go somewhere for positive reasons and it's optimistic and it has those sort of cerulean blue skies that were in all those Sega games like Outrun and Sonic, and you just boot it up and you'd feel happy. It's like a Saturday morning in the middle of summer, and we wanted that feeling again, as opposed to the grim dark end of the world sort of feeling. So, but it's definitely a satire, and then on production level, the joke was you work for the 4th best interstellar space exploration company, which is Kindred Aerospace. And that's because we with 25 people, we were never going to be able to make the best of anything. So it was kind of became like a get out of jail free card. It's like someone would be like, the gun feels a little wonky, and you're like, 4th best. So it allowed us a little bit more leeway to lean into a different tone. Instead of saying it's the coolest, most powerful, tool you've ever used in a game like this, you're like, no, this is the funniest tool that you've used.
So I remember in the example that I saw, there was a lot of things as far as like the way the plant life in the world kind of reacted to you, and the way you kind of found items and built up kind of experience and made your character better. Can you tell me something about that loop and like what you're kind of looking for in that?
Yeah, so I think like I've always been interested in like trying to find a way to innovate or refresh objective systems in games, because if you think about it, they became sort of a checklist for a while that you would punch through, and then we discovered we could chuck them on the map, and then that when I was at Ubisoft, I started to feel like it was sort of oppressive. You'd open the map and there'd be this sea of icons, and then you would feel a sense of relief when you finished the game.
Ubisoft, that was basically their open world, was a giant checklist with a tower and like
we worked on it, and we iterated, and I think we refined it. And there's lots of qualities to it, that there's stuff everywhere. But it started to feel like your final emotion was, oh, thank God. It's finished. My map is clear of icons, And I was like, is there another way to attack it? So we tried a system where you sort of have a main quest through the game, but you can uncover other quests by discovering a need. So, for example, if you find an acidic plant that you would like to carry around to dissolve amber that you see in the environment, but you can't hold it, because you haven't upgraded your suit.
Yeah.
So when you pick it up, then it will hurt you after a little while, and a quest will be added like, I could upgrade your suit now that I know what you need if you go to point A and point B and point C and gather me stuff. And so for me, the hope was the player would feel that they'd wanted us to provide some sort of guidance there, instead of being pushed through a narrative thread, or you come to a giant cliff and there's a plant that could be used as a grapple anchor. Then if you scan it with you have a robust sort of Metroid Prime-y scanny device in the game. If you scan it, then the game will say, well, if you want to use a grapple point, you'll need a grapple. So if you want to build a grapple, then go here, here, and here. So hopefully it's a little bit more open-ended and player-driven than
reactive to what you're doing in the world.
Exactly.
And now, how do you make sure how do you make sure they find all these things? Like,
it's a challenge, and it is a bit of a Metroid Prime-vania, if that makes sense. So we hope there's been a lot of Metroidvania 2D games recently, but there hasn't been any 3D ones really. So we're hoping that people are in the mood to try a bit more of that. Obviously, it's got a lot of different stuff, and it's it's our universe and our tone. But just like in that game, you will come across an obstacle that you can't overcome in that moment, and then you can see beyond it all the places you could get to, or things that you want to get to. So then usually we're trying to train the player that you scan that object, and that's almost certainly a quest.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. That's great. So. Game development is hard. I think we got to make sure I remind readers and listeners all the time that making games is hard. And you come up with an idea and you start to put it down and like get everything built. What was your eureka moment when you said, "This is clicking the way I want it to"? When was the Savage Planet what you had dreamed?
What I dreamed. I don't know. I think. There's the old joke that games are never finished; they just ship.
Yeah.
So I don't think it ever gets to the dream point, because then you would just stop. But I think we knew we were going to be okay when people started laughing at the content.
Gotcha.
Because I think there's, if you break down how humor works in Savage Planet, then there's sort of the one-liners that the AI assistant will tell you, and that's a joke, a verbal joke, and so you can only play it once. So she'll spar at you, but you'll never hear it again in the game. But then the real game humor for me is sort of pratfalls, almost interactive pratfalls, and the game's co-op, so you can do it to your partner. But watching your partner slip over and die is endlessly funny. So we're trying to build in mechanics where you can screw over your partner accidentally while trying to achieve something, or screw over yourself accidentally while trying to do something. And seeing some of that work, like people laugh at a mechanical reaction that they'd created. I was like, I think we're okay. That's
for sure. And
cool.
Especially with co-op. Anytime you can do something with a friend, it makes horrible tasks great, right? So that's an added bonus. Is that both couch co-op and online, or just online only?
It's just online. We did couch co-op for Army, and that worked great. I think it was a huge addition to the game. But now most people have some kind of online.
And they don't want their friends over messing up the place.
It would be great if we can ever get a Switch version together. I think it'll be brilliant to have the two people next to each other. So we're looking into it, but we don't know yet. But no, it was just a production reality. Like it's just for the size team that we had. It was an expensive feature.
And since you brought that up, so it's PlayStation, Xbox One, and PC, right? It's
PC,
coming out
that's
on
right.
all three, all on day one.
All on day one.
Oh, that's great. That's a lot.
It's the vestige of AAA developers. Where
You're like, we have to put it on
Yeah,
everything.
Exactly. Yep.
Oh, well, that's crazy. Are you gonna, if you do a Switch, would you do it yourself, or do you think you'd go find somebody to do it for you?
We're still figuring out how to handle it, but I think we'd probably go and find someone because we don't have a lot of experience on the Switch.
So you have 25 people, so
Yeah.
you're like a one project team. Are you guys going to take a break? Are you going to go right next to the next thing?
I think the challenge with one project studio is you can't take a break. Like even on that, if you imagine paying 25 people every month, and at the moment we have no income. Basically, we have the income from the production, but we have no ongoing income from back catalog of games or anything like that. So no, we have to have work. So we're going to go into a little bit of DLC. There'll be some free stuff for people.
Oh, cool.
Just anyone who wants to support us, we'll be putting some cool stuff out there, and then we'll probably have one PDLC after that, and then we're hunting for game 2.
That's crazy. I mean, I'm not asking you to tell me the ideas, but you have you guys been talking about it at all?
Well, I think that the smart thing to do, looking at other studios, the two that popped to me were Bethesda and BioWare, in that they started with smaller versions of the games. They ended up becoming, huge.
Oh, yeah, okay, gotcha.
So, if you look at Elder Scrolls, the original, then it's just a tower, that you go through. And then Daggerfall is this sort of wide, sprawling, but sort of, it's a bit muddled content, but then by the time they get to Oblivion and then and Morrowind and then finally Skyrim, they've refined their systems. They've built on the technology that they had, even built on the lore. That they kept reshipping parts of the lore, which I think is great. It builds a universe, and they're able to keep their team relatively small. So we're looking to do the same thing. So say Savage Planet, and then keep the pulpy tone, keep the first person perspective, keep the way we handle tools and quests, and then grow and grow and grow. And even if we change IPs, then come up with something else, it would still be a bit like that, I think.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Actually, it's a good way to, especially with, as you said, with a small team.
Yeah.
That puts you half in.
Yeah, it buys us 6 months at the start of the game, where you're not like this one. We were sort of like, okay, we got nothing, and someone's like, can I try a creature? No. Can I put something in the player's hands? No, you can't do it. So it took, there's a curve to even being able to work basically at the start.
Yeah, that's nuts. So, so Montreal is a crazy hotbed of game development. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, you could argue, but it kind of feels like it's gaming's Hollywood to some degree. I feel like there's more games that come out of Montreal than anywhere else in the world. What's that scene like up there?
I think it's great. I'm Australian, and I worked originally in Australia, and then there just wasn't, but before sort of online distribution and the indie explosion, it was like, and when AAA died in Melbourne, where I'm from, it's like, it's work in a bank or get out. So I ended up going to California, and that was great, but then California is too expensive. So, you find in Montreal this great sort of really positive relationship with the government. There's a lot of support. The universities are brilliant. The cost of living is low. And all that together has built this scene up, year by year, especially Ubisoft as sort of like the sort of, training ground for a lot of devs. Has been, it's a really healthy scene. So there's lots and lots of indie studios. There's all the big players are there. The few that aren't there, we always hear rumors that they're coming in. So everybody's there.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's there or going there or going to have something there. So it's an amazing place. And it's kind of crazy to your point that so many, we talked about this a little bit at lunch, but so many great developers have left Ubi and they've still managed to make great games, but have seeded out to all these different groups. It's kind of nuts, like yourself. So
well, I think that's healthy. I think there's only so long you work at the big studios, on other people's IPs. At a certain point, you get excited about having a blank piece of paper, not just what's the best version of that idea I could put together.
So how do you handle when you get a game out? Especially now, this is going to be more personal for you than anything else, because I mean, you've been a part of every single bit of this game.
Yeah.
Do you go look on Twitter when a game like this launches? Do you watch Metacritic?
Oh yeah, obsessively. You refresh it, and it's really unhealthy. It's desperately unhealthy because I think these days the overall reviewing scene I think is healthier in the sense that tastes are varied.
Yeah.
It used to be years ago it was the same developers as an audience and as reviewers, and so it was sort of a bit monolithic. So you're going to get raves hopefully, and you're going to get critiques, and you're going to get teardowns and all that sort of stuff. I think we're a bit safer on a new IP because the people who really don't care just won't even pay attention.
Yeah.
On the franchises, it's a hotbed. feedback. But it can be rough, and you have to tell the team to get ready for it, and because everyone pours their heart and soul into it, whether it works or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so and you have a lot of people who are heads down and and don't pay attention, and getting yelled at on the internet is never fun.
It's never fun. No, it is never fun. So basically, this is the first game. How is as an indie game studio, especially a new one, how do you get your game out there? How do you market it? How do you make sure everyone knows about it? I mean, obviously, come on, the Game Informer show. It's like step one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, but for me, it's two parts. And again, thank you so much for having me on.
Of course.
But that's because we've sort of known each other for many years.
Yeah.
So
longer than we care to admit.
Exactly.
I think is the right answer.
We're all graybeards now. It's terrifying. But that's it. And so you have some people you can call, and you try to lean into that a little bit and say, to generate some interest. And then, we partner with 505 as the publisher, who, we wouldn't have been able to do localization or QA or physical manufacture or distribution, and having another set of eyes and people, smart people looking at the game and giving us feedback. So it's finding the right partners, I think, is the way to do it, and to not assume that you can just, do it all on your own.
And I think 505's been, we talked about this a little bit at lunch as well, but 505, I think they've been doing a great job of it's tough to get into that publishing business and get out there and get some hits, and they've done well.
Well, recently, I think they've had a stellar lineup. Everything from Control coming out recently to Bloodstained. You know what I mean? Hopefully, we continue the run.
Exactly. They've been picking all the hits.
Yeah, otherwise, I'll get a stern phone call. It'll be trouble. You ruined it. But no, I think they're on the up.
Yeah, that's really exciting. So do you go out? Do you going to do early access or any of that stuff? That's kind of all the hip new way to get a game out, right?
I think there was a period for early access that was cool. I don't know if it exists anymore. I think anything, when someone finds a new avenue to market or a new way to do it, then it gets colonized very quickly.
Yeah, it does.
And there's a few people then who have hits, and then everyone else is just, it's not good. And our game is, the joke we told was that it's a game for people with jobs. So you know what I mean? It's it's meant to be the sort of the appetizer alongside your main meal. It's not a 1,000-hour looter shooter, or we're joking it's a polluter shooter. It's you arrive on this beautiful world and you trash it basically, but you trash it quickly, efficiently in 10 to 12 hours, and you can move on. So it doesn't really suit early access. If you put it out, I think people would chew through the content too quickly. It just wouldn't work. I think it's more buy it, play it once, enjoy it, maybe play it again with a buddy if you didn't the first time, and then move on.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So you said you were going to do something different as far as not a full price game.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking here?
We're looking at. I mean, I don't know if I'll glance over to the corner to PR, but it's in the sort of $29.99 is what we're looking at.
Is what you're looking at? Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, and I think that's cool. I mean, it's funny too because I don't know if reviewers care, because does the price come on it with the review copy? They shouldn't care, I guess.
Yeah, we don't. We try really hard to not, because we were just to use an example, when God of War comes out at $60 and then it goes on sale at $5, is it all of a sudden better?
Yeah, no.
Which the answer is no, right? So it's you got to kind of throw that out. But I do think for listeners or someone who's excited about the game and thinks it's funny, I think for those original kind of round of people, I think it's
big. And we need people to take a chance. You know what I mean? It's sort of it's not like another Assassin's game or another Metal Gear. We need people to say, oh, you know what? All right, I'll give it a shot. And even though it's not going to be as large or as complex as a full price game, we're hoping that it has enough charm and fresh features to find an audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's my favorite part of being a game journalist is it's always kind of hey, Assassin's Creed 4 is coming out. Well, no kidding. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I am shocked.
That is fun news to deliver and stuff like that. But I mean, that's not entirely new. And I love seeing new games and new franchises born and new ideas and getting a chance for things to grow and do things different. Because that's really, I think that's the one thing that AAA companies do so well, is that they really know how to execute on an idea and execute it in a big way.
Yep.
But new ideas are hard to create in that space, like you said, with even your example of Spore. You know what I mean? When you get that big, it gets harder.
And I'm sure without Will Wright, they would have killed us a million times. They were just I think they were obsessed with the idea that it was going to sell as many copies as The Sims.
Yeah.
And they were so obsessed with it, I think, that you could tell them, it's a game about building little monsters, and it's weird, and it's a toy, not a game, really.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, yeah, but it's going to sell like The Sims. And you're like, okay, that's fine. just let it go. But no, it's harder at the big studios to get new IPs up for sure. And there's a lot of interference. There's a lot of fear. And they usually want to come in second and buy it, you know what I mean? And then iterate on it and let the risk be somewhere else. I've heard multiple major publishers say they would have canceled Minecraft.
Yeah, I mean, it's believable.
Yeah, including the company that bought them in the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no way someone would have built Minecraft within Microsoft, for example. You know what I mean? But once you see it, you're like, oh, I get it now.
You
know, and I'll give you $1 billion.
Multiple billions of
buy
dollars.
Buy Beyonce's house.
Yeah, I mean, when you outbid Beyonce and Jay-Z, you got paid, right?
That must be.
And that's a goal, right, for you, right?
That's all I want. I want the jelly bean room. I've heard that there's a jelly bean room. I want it.
Well, that's exciting and super great for you guys, and I'm excited about the game. So it comes out January 28th. Journey to the Savage Planet, first game from Typhoon Studios. Alex, a legend, worked on so many games. Great to have you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching the Game Informer show. Bye.